5, 4, 3. Gather around, freaks. It's the final week of the final John Carpenter's in the month of madness. Last week we did John Carpenter's very first movie, and now we talk about his very last. So gather around the internet radio and gather around the internet campfire, because it's time, once again, for, hey, did you see this one?
The year is 2024, and two friends once again invite you to join them in revisiting or discovering for the first time the masterworks of a filmmaker who transcends genre, whose horrors have lurked in the dark, broken free from the ice, crawled straight from hell, or even pulled themselves from the very pits of a mad mind, who showed us the hidden corners of Chinatown, sent a man from the stars, and dragged us to New York, LA, and even Mars. Nearly unmatched as a genre filmmaker. Once again, Hey, Did You See This One? Invites you to look upon the works of a genius. We present to you John Carpenter's In the Month of Madness.
Welcome to the freak zone. This is where we freak out.
You almost said freak off, and I was like, Jason, stop.
Yeah, that was
too apropos.
A little bit. Hello and welcome to Hey, Did You See This One? The weekly review reaction roundtable discussion podcast where we just have to ask, hey, did you see this one? On this show, we take a film and completely pull it apart, leaving no stone unturned. We are your co-hosts, Jason R. Phillips and Stephen Waters. This is episode 169. Nice.
Whoa.
And if you're playing at home, it's season 3, episode 20. Welcome back to the show, Ben Mason. Ben Mason back on the show.
Welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
This is I'm sure the audience will get on it in a second. Here we go.
Thank you for coming back. I know that it's a hassle for you to come on here and talk about these terrible movies.
I know you hate John Carpenter.
He's the worst.
Hate John Carpenter. I think
the absolute worst.
All of our guests that have ever been on this show, you've definitely been on the most for John Carpenter. And your 5 Times Club may even sit within John Carpenter's movies. So thank you for coming back. We are covering this week The Ward. It is not the year 2024. It is actually 2025 now. We're in the new year. It's John Carpenter's In the Month of Madness, the final.
I did consider making a just an obvious edit to the video of me being like 25.
25. I tried to do it on the first one and it was terrible, so I stopped.
Yeah.
The thing that is great is we're leaving John Carpenter. Actually, it's not great. John Carpenter was a fantastic director to talk about. But next year, 1 year from now, 365 days or less, we will be covering some new director. We don't know. Maybe David Lynch. Who knows?
I think we should. As we all know, he did pass away last week. Very sad. Right. Very, very sad. And I've loved his movies for a long time, but they are a little bit less accessible than someone like John Carpenter, where you can kind of hop in and know, and you get it. You're not really in for like a mind fuck, but Lynch is a little different, and it's not as digestible as Carpenter.
Definitely not for everyone.
Yeah, and I would be completely down to do it, but he doesn't have that many movies. He has a lot of stuff, but movie-wise, not that many. So we could probably cover that in a month if we wanted to.
1 month of David Lynch.
Unless we want to do all of Twin Peaks, all 30 years of it.
Well, I learned one thing. In university, I had to write a paper about Mulholland Drive.
Mm-hmm.
And I found the thing about Lynch's films is you don't actually have to watch them to write a paper about them. so abstract. I watched the first half and walked out and wrote an A+ paper.
And you're like, yeah, we'll see. Yeah, but I mean, for a lot of people, Lynch is like the thing that changed their brains, or like informed their view on the world. So, but we're not talking about Lynch right now. We're talking about John Carpenter, who I think all three of us at this point can appreciate the fact that he's probably influenced a lot of the way that we view film from an early age. At least Ben.
Undeniably.
Yeah. And I know, Jason, you're a little bit later in life, but I think that you can, now that you've gone through them all, realize that like maybe I should have watched these when I was younger.
It's rare that I see every movie from a director, and because of this show and because of this month over the last 4 years or whatever, I've now seen every single John Carpenter movie, and it has enlightened me. I see how he's influenced film, and I can, like this movie too, I can see how it is a John Carpenter movie. It's, even though it's a newer movie, he's got that like look that he still is able to do even with like a newer film.
Yeah. And I was going to mourn the loss of us being able to watch that video on the show again, but
that's pretty good.
But I forgot we do have one left that is going to enter one of our lost pages. So maybe on that episode we'll play the video one last time just to remember. I don't know if Jason, if you got to it, but I have my list of his movies, favorite to least favorite. I'm not sure if you ended up. No, you didn't. Okay. Well,
I botched it. I'll try to do it during the show.
I mean, I forgot to remind you, but I do have a doc, and it's made and sent to you that has all of them for a column for you, and I have my column there, and then you can do that if you want throughout the show. Ben, if you want to as well, you can. But let's talk about the movie first. We'll do that later if we have time.
That's right. I found it cool immediately. Well, to start off here, we are talking about the award from 2010. The first thing that we do on the show, of course, is we introduce Ben. He's here. But before we get to our thanks, we got to hear from Zardos. Zardos, are you up there?
Zardos, we need you.
Zardos speaks to you. He demands you synopsize this film. Tell him how, why, who, what occurs in this film.
That's right. Ben, would you be willing to give us a very brief synopsis of this film?
Sure. Well, basically, it is the story of a woman who is picked up after setting a farmhouse on fire and put into an institution where she encounters other patients and strange occurrences begin.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
correct.
Pretty much. Interestingly, my notes are like more sparse than normal because that's pretty much the movie in a nutshell.
Does it feel like a TV episode to anyone else?
A little bit.
Yeah, I'm not even sure of what show, like X-Files maybe or something.
I was saying it would have been a perfect episode of Masters of Horror, but he already did the best one with cigarette burns.
Right. Or like a Twilight Zone, or something anthology. It just doesn't feel as heavy in terms of like story structure for a Carpenter. Carpenter usually has like really well informed characters or well crafted characters with a world that is either really normal and weird things are happening in it, or a really weird world where mundane people are having to face magic and shit. Whereas this just kind of felt like whatever characters in a whatever situation. Like
I need to say this right off the bat. You take his name off this movie, I would never guess it was a Carpenter film.
Yeah, I agree. I
could agree.
I was feeling that throughout. I think maybe a little bit of the cinematography here and there has the Carpenter stamp, but like outside of that, it does feel like somebody emulating him. It doesn't even feel like himself. That's not to say that the movie is absolutely horrendous. I think that it's just a whatever movie, like it's something that I've seen this movie before. And the first time I watched it, I didn't realize it was a John Carpenter movie, or at least I hadn't like been heavily influenced by John Carpenter in the way that I am now, 15 years later or whatever. I'm pretty sure I saw this in theater and I was like, oh, John Carpenter, he's a horror guy. I'll go see this.
Do you want to move over to our brief history? And
right, I forgot that we do that.
The brief history.
A brief history.
Ben, we've reshuffled the show a little bit, so excuse our technical difficulties. It wouldn't be Hey, did you see this one if we weren't just forgetting stuff. But Steve, continue. Sorry, I didn't.
No, I was just getting excitable. I like talking about Carpenter. I mean, this is when movies were still being presented by by the names that directed them, where the name will appear in the title, like Wes Craven's Bitten or whatever the fuck that werewolf movie that came out, I think was his last movie or whatever. It was
Cursed.
Cursed. There we go. Yeah. It still meant something. I mean, listen, they could have called it Bitten and it would have been the exact same fucking all right. But John Carpenter's name still had weight, and this is the thing that I think even he was like, I think I'm done, guys. I'm just gonna play my synth and 2K4 or whatever for the rest of my life. But yeah, I remember seeing this, and I was already steeped in Carpenter, but not steeped to the point of being done, where I'm like, I know all of his movies inside and out, and I've seen them all multiple times, and I love 95% of the work that he does. This is more like I'm still figuring out which movies that I do love, and I hadn't even seen all of them. I don't think I'd even seen Big Trouble in Little China yet at this point, and I didn't realize how important he would become in my life. And then while watching this in theaters, I was like, this movie sucks. There's a twist in this movie that I rewatching it this week. When the moment happened, I was like, oh yeah, I remember at this exact moment is when I figured out what the twist is, and it's relatively early on in the movie. So like by the movie's end, I'm like, okay, when they reveal it, I'm like, yeah, I know, I'm aware. Movie, you don't have to make it so freaking obvious. But yeah, it's again, it's just a very whatever movie. And I want to talk about it a little bit more as we go, but there are other movies that do this same twist in a more satisfying or interesting or creative way. Even though they may not be great movies, their ability to use this trope that has been around forever in a way that isn't saving it to the last second to be like, because you're like, yeah, we figured she's in a mental institution. I get it. And even movies since this movie have done it, we've covered Split and Glass on this movie, and they deal with DID or dissociative identity disorder in interesting ways, where it's like maybe they're not being as compassionate about this mental illness as they could be, but they're still doing it in ways that are satisfying narratively. Whereas this movie, it's just a twist, and it's not even a good one, But yeah, the first time I saw it, I remember leaving. A couple of my friends, I had a mixture of friends where it's like some people were like, this is shit, and other people were, that was crazy. I'm like, no, I'm with the shit, guys. let's go to win. Talk about how shitty this was. Yeah, that's my brief history.
Fantastic. How about you, Ben?
I avoided this movie like the plague until you asked me to come on the show and talk about it.
Wow.
Interesting.
Well, before this, we had what? Ghosts of Mars.
That's
Yeah.
true.
Come on now.
Ghosts of
and
Mars. Probably worse
10
than this, maybe? I don't know, but I kind of like Ghosts
I
of
don't
Mars a
know.
little bit. Yeah. It's like there's like
But,
weird
like,
things that I like.
After 10 years of being away, he comes back with this, and I was really excited. And I went to one of my favorite horror movie review websites, and they put up a review for this movie, and the review just said, "Don't."
Oh, man.
And it's I know why they wrote that.
Yeah. That's so sad though, you know. Because
It really is. It really is. But it's I was kind of excited because you guys made me watch it. Like, finally, I'll get this one under my belt too. And I saw the name on screen. I was really happy. And then you hear the music, and you're like, well, that's not Carpenter. And then you watch the movie, and you're like, well, this.
Neither is this or this or this.
Yeah, or this or this. Or it's like, how many times have we seen this over again? Like, is this Zack Snyder's The Ward or John Carpenter's Sucker Punch? Like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Oh, I didn't even.
What are we doing here?
When I was thinking of the movies that have done it well or better, like I wasn't even considering that one. But I would argue that this movie does it better. Like this movie's better.
It actually does. Yeah, you're right.
But I thought that Girl Interrupted captures this vibe a lot better, and it doesn't have the dumb twist at the end. You know, sorry.
No,
I have
it's
an
fine.
example that I'd like to talk about if you guys would indulge me, but we'll get through our brief histories first.
Yeah, sure. No, I put this movie on twice and I fell asleep both times.
I had a similar experience this week. I put it on. I got so distracted because I started writing, and I'm like, I could probably write while watching this, and then I was just like looking up and down and up and down. And I'm like, is this, what era is this supposed to be? They're dressed like they're in the 1950s, and then when I watched it the second time, I'm like, oh, 1950s. Yeah. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
When I first watching, I was like, is this modern? Where are the cell phones? What's going on?
Well, I was stoked to watch it, honestly, for one reason. And that's because, well, first of all, I don't really like Amber Heard that much, but I really did love All the Boys Love Mandy Lane. So I was really curious to see more of her earlier work. And
I like her modern get into work, it. Like the trial of Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. That was my favorite.
Yeah, that was my favorite Amber Heard movie.
Yeah, it was very well directed.
Yeah.
Amica cream? She took a shit in a guy's bed.
No, she took a grumpy.
We've all been there.
Yeah. Johnny Depp was like, she took a grumpy in the bed. It's like, what, sir? A dump. Yeah. You poured yourself a mega pint? A mega pint?
A mega pint?
It was a movie I always avoided, and I kind of wish I didn't watch it.
Well,
but
you know,
Jason, what's your story here?
Well, it's pretty similar. I had never seen it. I'd never really heard of it. It's, you know, had to watch it for this show, so I watched it. But I will say that I saw Sydney Sweeney. Okay, so I didn't know the twist. I'm kind of an idiot when it comes to movies. I'm more of a TV guesser. And for this, I was like, really? When it's revealed at the end. But I did look at the IMDb like days ago, and I saw that Sydney Sweeney played Alice. And I'm like, when they are talking about Alice, I'm like, oh, is she for some reason, like the weird zombie ghost? And I didn't put it together until they show her face, because I failed to remember that she would have been like 12 or 13 at the time. I was expecting fully aged 20-year-old Sydney Sweeney to walk in, forgetting that it was 2010. So that was me being an idiot.
In your defense, Amber Heard looks more or less the same in this movie as she does to this day. So
right, yeah. I really only know Amber Heard's acting from the Aquaman movie where she has red hair. I haven't really seen her anything else. So,
well, you saw her in the trial of Amber Heard and Johnny Depp.
And yes, of course, in the trial of
my dog slipped on a bee.
And then she's doing blow like secretly.
Yeah.
Definitely check out Mandy Lane if you get a chance. I think you'll appreciate it.
Also check out Court TV. Reruns.
So my brief history is that I'm an idiot and I spoiled the movie for myself, but I didn't even realize I had spoiled it because they show that flashback.
And the thing is like what you're saying is that you looked it up. You should have made the connection right then and there. You still didn't make the connection until the end. Okay, so you didn't spoil it for yourself. If anything, your stupidity aided you in your viewing experience.
It's true. I'll accept. I don't like being called stupid, but I will accept that.
Listen,
assessment.
You said it, not me. I'm just.
That's what I'm saying. But yeah, my brief history is more or less. I watched it this week, and whatever. Terrible way to end this month.
I think we were talking throughout the week.
Because I think Dark Star last, but
that probably would have been a better call. Because it is kind of a sour note to end on, but the good thing is that we don't always have to just talk about the movie. We can talk about John Carpenter and his whole career, because this is the last time we're going to be talking about him in the way that we do in this month. But yeah, I mean, I'll talk about the other movies as we go through, like parts that reminded me of it and all that. Because there are a few movies that have this same sort of trope to it that I do think are better. And not to say that they're good movies, but I would like to mention them. Honorable mentions, I guess, is what I would say.
I have completed my list. I was able to throw it together.
Oh, that was.
You forgot Ghost of Mars.
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Oh my fucking god. Here, you talk. I gotta look up the list, dude.
Well, let's do a little bit of production talk. Hit the.
Oh, okay.
All
right. Quiet on set. Are we rolling? Okay, let's shoot this piece of shit. Sound. Speed. Action!
That's right. Production talk. The movie is directed by John Carpenter. The movie cost $5.3 million. $10 million to make. It made $5.3 million. We will not be getting a sequel. I watched it. I rented it from YouTube, so it was pretty high def. What versions did you guys watch it in?
It was on YouTube for free.
Oh, fuck. Really?
Yeah.
I have the DVD.
I watched. Okay. You have the DVD, and I guess like if you're a collector, you gotta have it. But you hadn't watched it. That's fucking. Awesome.
Thousands of movies, and I have.
I know, but that's so awesome that you own the movie, and you're like, I still refuse to watch this, even though I bought it.
Gotta be a completionist, though.
Yeah,
that's good, man. That's such a funny, weird collector thing to have. I watched it. I eventually found a copy of it, and it was good. It was good, high quality, but even the YouTube version is also high quality. And you rented it on YouTube, you said, even though you could have watched it for free on YouTube.
Yeah, I feel like a double idiot. I'm a dullard, as we came up with last week.
I started that shirt, by the way, where it's us pointing at each other, and it just says dullard above it, as we're both saying dullard at the same time.
Perfect.
Well, at least it's not taking up shelf space in your place, Jason.
Yeah. Right. But like the way I found, because I was gonna watch it with Danny, and like I had the downloaded copy. I'm like, where am I gonna find it? I gotta help them, because they just like get too flustered. They're like, I'm not watching it. So I'm like, I'll find it. And the first thing I did was like, where to watch the war? And it was like YouTube. It was like, what? I clicked it on. I'm like, is this gonna be some Russian version or something? Nope. Perfectly crystal clear. Just had like Spanish captions, I think was like
it takes you to a page that just says don't.
Yeah.
People don't care so hard they put it up, and nobody was like, take that down. They're like, leave it.
That like Jurassic Park. Yeah.
I will say this movie wasn't. It was directed by John Carpenter, but it was written by the Rasmussen brothers, and they've written 6 movies and directed 2. The 6 movies they've directed all have like the same cover almost, and they're all look like horror movies. These are the names. They're so like weirdly similar, just like generic horror. Long Distance, The Ward, Dark Feed, The Inhabitants, Crawl, The Unheard. That sounds like a list of movies from a horror movie where they're watching horror movies in the movie. Crawl. Yeah. I'm gonna go see Crawl.
Is that the giant croc movie?
I feel like I've seen Crawl.
It is.
It wasn't a bad film.
Yeah, I have seen Crawl, and you know what? I didn't mind it either. Yeah. I don't really remember a lot of it because I was working at a restaurant at this time and I didn't sleep very often, and we went to go see it in like the middle of the day because I worked at a nerd bar where we would get like free promotional stuff, like your whole staff can go see the movie. I went with like
it's
4
from
other
that
people.
era. Oh yeah, 2019. Yeah.
And it was like me, one manager, and like a couple of other people, and we were watching it, and the manager fell asleep like during the movie. Within like seconds, he was just like like snoring too. I was like, what the fuck is my life right now? But it was kind of all right. They're trapped in a basement with an alligator the whole time. Like it's a very like it's a containment movie or whatever. Which
that sounds interesting.
The concept is better than the movie, I'd say, but the movie itself wasn't terrible. It's like this movie. It's like it's a movie and it works, but you know it's not great.
Well, the cast is interesting. Amber Heard, Jared Harris, and Lyndsy Fonseca are all people that I've seen and heard. Lyndsy Fonseca is Kick-Ass's girlfriend in the Kick-Ass movies. And then Danielle Panabaker and Laura-Leigh you would recognize them to see them. And Sydney Sweeney is in this in like flashbacks. She's not even like top billed on IMDb, and this might be her first
why the
movie.
fuck would she be? She plays a character who doesn't talk in chains in flashbacks.
Yeah.
I think we should really talk about Mamie Gummer too.
Right, and Mamie Gummer, who's a very unique looking individual who I recognize from somewhere, but I'm not 100% sure where.
You may recognize her from her very serious resemblance to Alan Tudyk. That's what I was like. The whole movie, I'm like, why? Who? I've seen her somewhere. I'm like, oh no, she just looks exactly like Alan Tudyk. Like that's the.
She looks like her mother, Meryl Streep.
Oh yeah, she does look like Meryl Streep.
Yeah, and she was actually one of the actors on the show I worked on last year. Absolutely phenomenal, and I honestly thought she stole this movie.
She was good, yes, and she's kind of like the second fiddle kind of character.
Yeah, Emily.
Supporting actor. That's what I was trying to say.
Second fiddle. Yeah.
Second fiddle.
No, yeah, I think...
the award for second fiddle at the Oscars this year goes to.
It's actually just a fiddle, like a shitty fiddle, not a good fiddle. I think that her character was the most interesting, and she also had most of the comedy in this movie went to her. I say comedy that way because there was the funniest part of this movie was me and my partner watching it and just ripping on it the whole fucking time, just adding our own dialogue scenes.
This movie's unintentionally hilarious.
Yeah,
right.
When the hand comes up in the morgue behind her, and it just like it's almost like a Muppet, where it's like, it's like
they also refuse to do like second shots. Sometimes there's a part where when she gets the gun and she's like, move across the hallway, and they're already across the hallway. I was like, you couldn't have done that again? But that's probably nitpicky. Mm-hmm. But it feels like they had $10 million.
With $10 million, you think they could have gotten Carpenter to do the soundtrack, the score,
right? I'll do it for $10 and a hot dog.
Maybe he got through shooting and he was like, "This is going to be a god awful piece of shit. I don't give a fuck. You guys do whatever and just edit it the way you want to edit it. I don't care. I'm not doing the music. Bye."
I got paid in PlayStation gift cards.
Yeah. And I'm using them right now. Everybody in this movie was, just as I say, whatever. Like the characters were all kind of insufferable in a way where I get that they're supposed to be a fractured psyche, so they're not going to be fully developed, but that seems like a cop-out to me, like an excuse you would give, rather than making them feel fleshed out. They feel like a fragmented version of somebody where they're very specific to one thing. Yes. And I get that that's sort of the idea, but at the same time, it just makes them annoying and unlikable. Like there's not a single character in this movie that you're like, yeah, I really hope she gets out. Like all of them, I'm like, I hope she dies horribly. Like what's her name? What was the character's name? Sarah. The one who's like she's like a whore or whatever. That's her personality. She just wants to fuck all the guards or whatever. And
she's you're like, a whore.
I mean, that's what her character is. It's like, well, there's going to be the smart one who's an artist. There's going to be the childish
promiscuous
one. Okay, fine.
Also, I feel like she's trying to use her feminine wiles to escape.
No. Yeah, but also she's doing it constantly.
Spoilers, she's a personality inside a person.
Well, yeah, I already said that. I said they're all part of a fractured
My first
psyche.
podcast ever, guys. Sorry.
So she goes into a kitchen at one point, which is right before her death sequence, and then there's all this cool kitchen equipment. There's a deli meat thing, and I'm like, she's gonna get deli meat sliced. Her face is gonna get deli meat sliced, and then no, she just gets cut to like an electric. What is it called? Electroshock therapy thing.
Electroshock.
That's
device.
And it's like, man, you could have deli sliced. You could have used the deli slicer to kill her. It's right there. You had it in the foreground of the shot, to me, indicating that she's gonna get sliced by the deli slicer.
Well, they had to kill everybody by way of, things that happened to you in an insane asylum.
Yeah. Old.
I'm surprised nobody was in one of those like ice bath tubs and got drowned or something. That's like the one that they didn't do.
Well, that one wasn't allowed in 1966, Jason. And the only reason I know that is because literally today I did a narration VO for outdated and like old school therapy techniques. So like I have I know exactly when they were discontinued and for what reason. The ice bath was stopped in the late 1800s, I believe, or like up to like the early 1900s. She's not a sex worker. Actually, I guess a whore is technically, the definition is like a slut for money or whatever they say in other regions.
One thing I have to mention is, where's everyone else in this institution?
Well, they're in an okay. So it turns out
it's just a ward, right?
She's in a special ward,
right? She's in one area of the ward where there's, we think that there's four.
No, she's in a ward. She's in a ward. There are multiple wards. There's a burn ward. There's a pervert ward. There's
a second burn ward.
Yeah, and sees other people. But even when she sees the other people, there's only like two people there. There was no money for extras. They just were like, it's fine. But I was wondering the whole time where the hell other people are, and that should have been a red flag as to this person is one person.
Yeah. So like, I think it would have been more interesting
one person
if they had more people that weren't part of her personality realm in the ward with them, because then she would be able to not be able to tell. And then you could have had a thing where she like figures it out earlier on, and then she's trying to figure out which people are part of her personality and not. But I think the whole idea is that she's put into this ward specifically by the therapist, because he's like, I need to isolate her, because then she can start to root out all of these personalities on her own. And like, whatever, I get the idea, and it's kind of interesting, but at the same time, it's like, it was probably a
problem there. Is if you're trying to reconcile and focus all personalities back into one being, don't give them separate rooms.
But then she'd be like, where do you take everybody at night? She'd be asking too many questions, Ben. They have to cater to it.
We don't need to see that, though. It's poor storytelling.
Oh, I completely agree with you. Yeah. I try to be facetious. I'm trying to help the movie in any way I can here.
Don't you dare.
We can't all just shit on this thing for 2.5 hours or whatever.
We're moving a little bit into the story and the body. Do you have any other production notes that you want to cover before we move?
Not really. I can only speculate, because I didn't really dig into any Carpenter interviews or anything about this movie. It was his last movie, and it didn't feel like it was his. It felt like it was a job for cash kind of thing, to me at least. I don't know if that's
who's the whore now?
Yeah. John Carpenter. I mean, he is
sex worker.
Yeah. Yeah. He is notorious for loving a paycheck. Like, it is one of his staples of his personality, is that like he loves when people remake his movies, because he's like, yeah, my grandkids are going to go through college now, like without any kind of issue, because they remade Halloween for the fucking 4th time. And he doesn't care. Like, he's not like, it's my baby, like you hear about George Lucas being like, they didn't use my script ideas, but I'm sad about it. Like, John Carpenter's like, do whatever you want. I'll come back and go beep boop boop beep boop boop on my piano if you want. And I can respect him for that in a way, because it's like he did his thing and he did a bunch of great work, and he doesn't have to really worry about it. He's like, the stuff I made is good and I'm happy with it, and the stuff that was bad that I made, I'm not happy with it, and that's just what my career looks like, and I don't have to really care. And it's kind of great. Like if you see him on red carpet stuff and people try and get into like deep questions with him, he's like, nope, I don't, fuck off. I'm gonna go talk to Antonio Banderas for a minute. Hold on, hold my smoke. He gives
video.
Yeah.
Well, I know that he, after Ghosts of Mars, he just didn't want to make movies for a while, and I know I don't think he really liked the script for this movie at all. I don't think he liked the story. But I feel like this is the only movie of his that we've seen that takes place in one building.
Yeah. Okay.
And I feel like it's way too contained for Carpenter, because I always found him larger than life, because even The Thing doesn't take place all inside the base, right? We see some of the Norwegian base. We see like McCready's shack. We see so many different things outside. We see them out in the snow. Here it's just in the ward.
Yeah.
And I think that might have been part of what took me out of appreciating this as a John Carpenter film, because it felt unlike anything he's ever done, and not in a good way.
Even Assault on Precinct 13 like has that first part, and then they travel out. They try to like escape a couple times, so they're showing outside.
But I think that is a problem with the script, right? Like it's. And not even just the script, but just the bones of the story. Like you can't really let her explore too much, because it will then either give away what they're trying to hide, which my argument is that they probably shouldn't have hid it. It should have been known earlier on, and then you can get more creative with it afterwards. But the movie it's just failing in so many ways, not spectacularly so, just in a way that makes it less interesting. Like the things that should be interesting. I remember the entire time during the morgue sequence, when she's in the morgue, all I could think about is like, there are 12 ideas that have just popped into my mind that could make this more interesting than what I'm seeing right now. Everything about this is boring.
It's lazy.
It's lazy and boring and kind of funny, and it's not supposed to be funny. And like, I wanted to ask you guys, like, do you have a favorite morgue scene from a movie? Because like so many movies have morgue scenes, and so many movies have really good morgue scenes. This movie, the only reason it sticks in my head is because it's one of the only times we're out of the fucking ward. Like we're seeing a different area, I'm like, ooh, those cubbies have corpses in them. I did want to ask you if you guys had a favorite morgue scene in the movie, but if you want to talk about the morgue, we can talk about it when we get to it as well. I keep forgetting we're not in the body yet.
Autopsy
off the top of my
Jane
head,
Doe.
I'll say, okay.
Have either of you seen that?
Mine is Men in Black, the first Men in Black movie. One of the best fucking morgue scenes you'll ever see in a movie.
I don't have one off the top of my head. I've been watching a lot of horror lately, though, so there's always. I think Hellraiser has some stuff in morgues, probably. That's all I'm thinking. I'm drawing a blank on morgue scenes.
That's
specifically.
Okay. I mean, it's a kind of an out of the left field question, but like
I'll tell you what I think I like about some morgue scenes: when somebody's in a body bag and they're not dead and they sit up in the body bag. That's what popped into my head.
Right. Even the morgue itself was boring. Like it looked, it was shitty, like everything about it is just, anyway, I don't have anything else to add about the production of this movie, unless we want to talk about like the budget and stuff, but
I already mentioned that.
Right.
Yeah.
Relatively
I had
low.
read that it actually was filmed in an active institution. And that's why it's such a single location thing, because the crew had to be cordoned off from everybody else, all the patients.
Right. And they kept getting
so it does feel
attacked by people.
Yeah.
Just wandering on set.
Yeah.
Actually makes the movie exciting.
Yeah. They're like, we should just release the behind the scenes footage of the crew members getting attacked by ward patients.
It's actually a documentary.
Yeah, it's incredibly insensitive, but it's making more money than the movie made. So
it's also scarier. Yeah, way scarier.
It'd be terrifying.
Oh my God.
I feel like we should warn the audience that everything we say is in jest, and if we offend
Yes.
anybody, I apologize. It's just we're dumb, and
If you're watching this from an asylum right now, we don't mean any harm by what we're saying.
except for you, Jerry. He's like, "Ah!" This is my-
This whole podcast is actually just happening inside an insane person's mind,
yeah, Jerry's head.
inside a snow globe, inside a morgue.
Nora. It's Mr.
The
Freeze.
body of the episode.
Speaking of a body waking up in a morgue,
The body of the episode.
Hello, people listening. This is
roll it
a
again.
part of the show. What?
I said you love stealing that one. It's your favorite.
No,
one
I
to
didn't.
steal.
I didn't say it. I didn't say it. I said it differently enough that it's an interpolation.
Hello,
This is the-
people of the ward.
This is, of course, the segment of the show where we break down the movie and the plot and the lack thereof. I will start off by saying this is the final movie in John Carpenter's repertoire. We were expecting more, we got less. The movie starts out with, I think it just starts out with her escaping, running through the woods, right? Is that? No. We get like a Ghostbusters-esque intro bit.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
yeah. Tammy.
Yeah, the original Tammy.
You know, like
It's
the
fucking.
oh yeah, she gets strangled to death. Probably a studio note, but I don't know. It feels like they shouldn't have added that, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Because it now establishes that there's a ghost like immediately. Like we don't need that. I think it would be more mysterious if it started with Christina or Christine or whatever her name is. Stepping on the bee and then running through the woods.
Giving her Amica cream.
Yeah, she applies her Amica cream in the morning. Do you know if she was wearing any Amica cream that day, officer?
Amica?
Amica? I don't even know what it was. So yeah, I mean, nothing really wrong with the way it starts, but it's not frightening, you know?
No,
There's nothing
I was
scary about it.
I was immediately, like I said, I was immediately like, oh, they're doing the, like, you know, the first ghost attack somebody thing from reminding me of Ghostbusters heavily. And then when John Carpenter's The Ward popped up on screen in that font, I was like, oh shit, it's gonna be a banger.
Yeah.
It's all downhill from that font. Really.
It does excite you. Like just seeing
Oh.
his name is exciting. Yeah.
I would disagree with that. Like you get rid of that opening Tammy scene, and then you just get Kristen burning the house. Immediately I'm in, especially when like the orderlies pop up and arrest her, or like the police or orderlies, I can't remember right now.
Yeah,
But,
and they do like similar to the thing, like
It's the
the
police,
burning
yeah.
of the thing logo on the
Exactly.
screen. Yeah, that would have been pretty fucking cool.
I agree.
The opening credits are like a cool medieval torture painting montage, which also I was like, this is awesome. They're gonna allude to these ancient medieval. Nope. No,
Not at all.
No.
Not even a little bit.
The entire time during that, me and Danny were talking about our favorite medieval torture devices because we both know a lot about them for some reason. And I was like, wait, I didn't know you know this much about it. And Danny was like, yeah, don't you know about the bronze bull? Like,
The
what?
Iron Maiden.
John Carpenter's Iron Maiden.
Yeah, fucking Jason bring up an Iron Maiden like a basic medieval torture bitch.
I'm a basic medieval torture
really.
bitch.
Yeah. What about the pear? Oh God.
Tell me about the pear.
Oh, it's shaped like a pear. It goes somewhere and it opens up inside you.
Uh-oh, I can glean what you mean by that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My next note says, oh, Amber Heard is in this Amica cream. So we covered that already.
Yeah.
This is set in 1966. Amber Heard escaping from something or someone. She lights the house on fire. The police show up and take her. She's processed and put in the asylum.
I do have
back
to
in the
mention
asylum.
the processing is what ruined the entire ending for me.
Okay.
Because when they wrote all of her information down, they just wrote her first name.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yep.
I was like, yeah. I'm like, okay.
I'm trying to think. I was really trying because I already knew the twist going in this time, but I was trying to remember back because I do have a very vivid memory of figuring it out while I was watching the movie the first time. Because this is not anytime something's in a mental institution, I always have like that's like one of the Rolodex things in my head. It's like either it's gonna in her head the whole time, or like, it's one of the one of the things that's gonna happen, and you're just looking for cues or things that are. And it's not even like I'm doing it like Sherlock Holmes. It's just like once it pops up, you're like, fuck, this is gonna be a multiple personality thing, isn't it? But I didn't track that one, so that's good. I didn't even consider the fact they just showed the first name. But I will say that the entire time she was burning the house, me and Danny were both being the voices of the cops, being like, Miss Heard, this is the third property of Mr. Depps that you've burned down.
Please tell me your dogs weren't inside.
Yeah. Oh my God, she left a grumpy on his bed as well.
Oh my God. That's why she's burning the house down, to get rid of the evidence. Yeah. She doesn't have a lot of logic. This is something that happened.
That's when they said the name of the movie in the movie.
Surprisingly, I think it only actually happens like once. He says the ward, which is fine at 9 minutes.
And it's not like he does seconds. It's the ward, like lightning and stuff. He just says it, yeah.
He just says, get her to the ward. That's fine.
He says this is the ward, and then shoves. He's holding her by her neck the whole time too, which is like clearly he's kind of fed up. And you the whole time you're like, is this guy like a weird twisty pervert? Is it going to be something gross? But it's like, no, he's probably just fed up with having to deal with her because this is not a new patient. This is just somebody that he's having to deal with constantly. And the therapist is like, no. We have to let her explore the new personality. And he's like, fuck, God damn it. We have so many staff working on just this one person. There's a guy lighting his own turds on fire in the other ward, and you're telling me I got to watch her all night?
Lighting his own turds on fire. Yeah. Sit with that one for a sec.
I actually really enjoyed the storm effects, as cheap and cheesy as they were. Like I was ready for an asylum film, really, an institution film.
I do like when they add the cheesy spooks like that, because it's just it's just fun, like having a branch hitting a window or just a lightning at the right time. It's like that stuff is all, and you even just like the intro videos that I do for this podcast, you can tell that I fucking love that shit, because I'll be like, and then he said this, like I'm gonna throw it in because it makes it so much better.
Inversely, though, this movie has so many opportunities for jump scares, and they telegraph them so long that you don't even. And the one thing that got me is when Sarah pops up and she's like, "Hey!" I was like, "Look!" That's the only time a jump scare got me. In the morgue scene, there's like a long telegraphed jump scare, I believe, and also in the shower. So it goes on for so long.
Yeah.
So it's probably like
it's
just like, yeah.
The morgue is crazy because the hand comes up, but it comes up kind of like a little bit too slowly to make it. It's funny. Like it seems like a Muppet move or something, and I actually kind of like giggled out loud. And then when it comes down the second time, like not even a minute later, it's like all diffused now. It's like you're trying to light wet gunpowder. It's just like, what is this? It's not working.
The only jump scare that got me was the when Alice pops up behind, is it like Zoe or Iris in the dumbwaiter?
Oh yeah, yeah.
And that was the only thing. And even it wasn't even like a decent scare. It was just kind of like,
it's a cheap
that's
one.
Interesting.
Yeah.
This movie is not scary.
I forgot about that one. Yeah. But I mean,
it's
like
trying.
We've talked about this many times on the podcast. Like we all know that, and everybody knows who watches movies, like jump scares does not equal scary. It means they jabbed you in your fucking nervous system for a second, and if you equate that to scary, then you're fucking stupid. Like scary is when you are like sweating and gritting your teeth because you're like, I'm gonna get scared soon.
I think the biggest scare I've had recently was I watched this movie, god awful, but have you seen Clown? Have you seen the movie Clown?
Yeah.
Where a guy puts on a haunted wig, and it's kind of like it feels like a comedy a lot because it's such a ridiculous thing. But the funniest thing in the movie was also the most like, am I going to have to look away from this? So he's trying to kill himself because he realizes he can't die. So he shoots himself in the head and like like the blood on the wall is like rainbow colored, which is pretty funny. But he's trying to like, he's in a chair and he's got two saw blades going, and he's trying to like lean back in a chair to like fall head first into it. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to actually look at that, like, because that is, my mind prison was like, that's too fucked. He ends up getting thwarted, and then a saw blade flies through a child. A lot of kids die in that movie. It's fucking crazy. But that was the biggest like moment of like, oh, can I handle this? Nothing in this movie even reached close to that. In fact, there's no real gore in this.
No.
It's one of those horror movies where they cut away from all the things.
The only, like when she slits her throat, I guess, is the only real, and like pretty good too. Like it wasn't a bad throat slit. You know, there's many and many movies, and you know, it definitely wasn't like, ugh, that's shitty. I think I went, oh, oh my god,
oh my goodness.
I do have to say, this movie does have probably one of my favorite axe murders.
Oh right, yeah. Which, you know, that's also she's confused at that part, which is good. She kills the ghost with an axe.
Yeah. And then,
like the ghost
is that
like, and she's like, what the fuck? Did I just kill a ghost with an axe?
She also has superhuman punching strength right up to that point too. She's just knocking people out with one punch, no problem.
Well, it's
anyway,
all in her mind.
Yeah, maybe. So she walks into the living area. There's the recognizable faces. We basically meet the cast. Spoilers, these are all personalities inside her own head. She's told the rules of the place. We see Tammy's old room. They don't directly show it, but they kind of do that thing where it's not shown directly on camera, but it's off to the side. So it's, you know, I think that was them trying to leave breadcrumbs.
What? But sorry, I didn't. What were you saying?
When she's walking down the hallway, the nurse crosses out Tammy and writes Nicole
wiping it
or
off
whatever.
with her arm. Yeah,
Kristen, but they don't show it directly. They try to do it like, oh, go back and watch it a second time and you'll see that Tammy was written there. Was the way that they framed it. For sure. The
beginning of the movie, they show Tammy on there, and then the second time they show Tammy and she's like, and then they show it later like Tammy again. They show Tammy so many times on that fucking chalkboard in the movie that like I kept being like, who's Tammy? Is that Tammy? Like I kept yelling Tammy a bunch of times.
Tammy! Yeah. Well, that's how I interpret it. So that maybe for that one.
You might be, maybe my brain is changing the events because like I was like, Tammy, she's the one who died. We have to remember that Tammy died because Tammy's dead and she's taking Tammy's room. Tammy's going to be important. And Tammy was also a personality, the first to die, right?
Right, yeah.
Well, I guess not the first to die. Alice was the first to die, who is the real personality. Anyway, God, this is why I don't like this guy.
It's a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Alice thing is a mess. I've been thinking about it for 2 days. Like, how does it all relate? But this is where we get the first flashback to a little girl chained up. And I'm even like, is this Tammy? I'm at flashback to Tammy. They haven't even talked about Alice yet. Is this supposed to be Nicole? Is this Sydney Sweeney yet? Why isn't she 20?
I feel like there's like a remedy for this too. Like there's a better version of this script that can be made where it's all inside the ward without introducing a new character. I know that the introduction of a new character is important for us to be them via like we are the audience with her going through and discovering things, but that can be done in another way that's more interesting. And like this movie, like again, like it fails, but it doesn't fail spectacularly enough for you to be like, this is the worst fucking piece of shit I've ever seen. It's just like the most unfortunate thing about this movie is that it's directed by John Carpenter.
Right.
Otherwise, I would
John
not.
Carpenter's face plant.
Yeah, exactly.
It's pretty benign. It feels like a movie that just is on Shudder at midnight. You know,
like imagine
just on late night on a horror cable channel.
And I hate to be like imagine it was this, like let's rewrite a movie from fucking 15 years ago or whatever. But like imagine the opening of the movie is the morgue, and it's like this fucking creature coming out of the morgue and like gaining consciousness or whatever, and like you're focused on that, and it's like clipping to all these nervous inmates of this ward, and they all know they've done something wrong, and we are now having to discover what it is that has happened through them via their interaction with each other. And then we get the therapist coming in to deal with it every once in a while, instead of it having this benign fucking house burning shit that like we don't really explore it. All we know is that she escaped. She was sexually assaulted as a child or whatever, but then, you know, we don't know Alice, and we assume it's Christine the whole time, right? Because she's dreaming about it. And then in the end, you're supposed to be like, oh, they're the same person. It's her memories because they're the same. And you're like, fuck off. Like,
which is my exact reaction.
Film it and shoot it and write it as if they are all their own individual characters, and then have that revelation at the end if you want to. But like, you don't.
For what it's worth, I've never seen a slasher where the killers go just killing personalities, and the doctor was kind of right in the end. He's like, it's, you know, it's unorthodox, but we get that ghost to kill her personalities from within.
I can tell you exactly what movie that is.
I think we're probably thinking about the same movie.
Does it star John Cusack?
It does star John Cusack, yes.
Yeah.
This
that is that movie.
Yeah, this is the movie I wanted to bring up earlier, but I was like, we should probably talk about the actual movie first. But the movie is called Identity. And it's also not a great movie, but it is more interesting. And they're doing pretty much the exact same thing that this movie is doing, only they reveal the fact that this is a battle inside of somebody's head fairly early on in the movie. Like within the first, like I think it's the end of the first act, you're getting that information as an audience. And the whole movie is a group of people, and they're all staying at a motel in a horrible storm. And one of these people is murdering all of the other people in the motel. And up until the end of the first act, you just think this is like some crazy, like, what the unfortunate scenario. And then it turns out like, no, it's actually a maniac who is having a battle inside his own mind. And then these characters are able to like be pulled out and talk to therapists at a table. And like the therapists are like, you have to go back in there and you have to figure out who's the killer in your mind or whatever. And then he goes back down, and it's John Cusack being like, holy shit. And Ray Liotta's in it. And he's like, I'm going to fucking
amazing.
And it's all like telegraphed for you to think that Ray Liotta is the killer, but then like, you know, you're not sure. And the whole, it's a whodunit, but it's like within a person's mind. It's a far more interesting way to deal with this kind of thing. And this, I think that movie came out like 4 or 5 years before The Ward, right? Did it? I don't know.
Well, I'm not sure. But one thing I do have to say about this is like, this movie is just like, the major offense of The Ward is that it's just boring.
2003.
And then you get something like Identity, where it's, you get a taste of what's happening, and then the writer and director like, look, we're going to level with you right now. This is what's happening. Just sit back and enjoy it.
Yeah. And you do.
You
It's more enjoyable. Yeah.
This movie's insulting. But
this cast is
get into that later.
Comparatively, though, like Ray Liotta, but also Amanda Peet, John Hawkes, and Alfred Molina.
Yep.
And Clea Duvall.
Yep.
What?
It's great.
I want to talk about that. And Pruitt Taylor Vince, who, like, you know, you know him to see him. What a way. Jake Busey's in it. Oh my god, I want to watch this movie instead of doing this podcast right now.
You know what? Sorry. We can put that into a Lost Pages month.
Absolutely,
because it is a fun movie, and like, again, it's not great, but it's like, it's good. It's good enough. It's better than this. It's much better than this movie, and it is essentially the same concept. Yeah,
I want to agree with Ben. Like the movie is fucking boring, and the parts that are interesting feel so ham-fisted, and like they're trying. Like, I feel like John Carpenter not only didn't write this, but he didn't even like add any of his like spice. He just was like, "What am I filming? I'll point the camera. I'll do my John Carpenter style shots." But he didn't add anything to this movie. This was fully a Rossum Brothers production. They were like, this is our vision.
I wonder why they, like, it must have been just to have his name attached, because like I don't understand why they even got him to do this. And I don't really understand why he did it, other than money, you know, like, and how much did he get paid for it? If it's a $10 million budget, like, you got to assume at least one of those millions went to him.
I think you summed it up really well earlier with like Wes Craven Presents. If you put not John Carpenter's The Ward, but John Carpenter Presents The Ward, I think I would be less offended.
That's a good point.
Well, I mean, that's they'd still do it to this day, right? It's not, it's an old trick, and it's a modern trick, and it's a trick that's been going on forever. Like, I think, not to call you out, Jason, but like there was a time where you thought the new Candyman was directed by Jordan Peele, and like that was just a product of you being like hit by that name over and over again in the marketing.
Yeah.
And it's like,
he just produced, right?
But yeah, if you're not reading about Jordan Peele's upcoming filmography and the stuff he's working on a daily basis, you're not going to realize, you're just going to think that he directed it, right? And it's like, no, they're tricking you. And not to say that Candyman movie is a bad name.
As another person they do that with sometimes.
Well, Tim Burton is the most egregious, because like people to this day, decades later, still think that Tim Burton directed The Nightmare Before Christmas, and he had almost nothing to do with it. It's like fucking great. At Christmas this year, my mom was like, I don't like it because Tim Burton is too weird and he makes too weird movies. And I was like, Mom, he didn't make this movie. And she's like, yes, he did. His name is right there. I'm like, it says Tim Burton Presents. And she's like, yeah, he presents it because he made it. I'm like, no, it's directed by. Yeah, Selig did it, man. And not that my mom is the most like savvy when it comes to film knowledge, but like she is a good litmus test for like what most people are going to experience for marketing and things like that. Where like a marketing trick that worked 25 years ago is still working.
It's kind of a call to action to like do your research. If you see presents, just make sure that you're not getting sucked in, because you're absolutely right. I thought Jordan Peele did those fantastic 2 movies. Him and Keegan-Michael Key made Keanu, which is a fun comedy, and then I thought his next big thing before Nope came out was Candyman, and that's just not it. He's a producer credit on it, but they put his name all over the marketing.
Like he made Get Out, he made Nope, and then he made he made Us, and then he made Nope, and in between they just made it seem like he made another movie, which he didn't. Right. And then even that other movie, Monkey Man, I think, that like people thought that was going to be him as well, and it's like, no, it's not. He's involved in it, but he's involved in a way that he's like giving the nod and being like, hey, I'm putting money towards this, and I believe in it, because like the Candyman movie was good. Like I didn't think it was a bad movie, but if you think Jordan Peele directed it, you're just wrong. And same goes with Monkey Man. He didn't direct it, he just gave the nod to the movie. But this is not that. John Carpenter directed this, and it's a fucking piece of shit.
Yeah, he made some creative choices. Like direction is a lot of what goes into a film, but it feels like he was just uncreative from his part. They didn't have that spice, it didn't feel.
It feels like he probably wasn't invested in the material, and I wonder if there was a moment where like he was like, yeah, I'll do this, and he maybe thought like, I'll be able to
have that input.
I'll be able to have my my voice in this film, and the more he worked, the more they're like, all right, old timer, no, we're doing it this way because that's how horror movies are these days, okay? But then you look at the sensibilities of the movie, and there's so much like old timey shit rattling around in here that you're like, yeah, like it feels like an old man made it. It's
so many age tropes in this movie.
Yeah.
That like comes straight out of the 50s. That we've seen them all. We don't need this anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it feels like one of those late night horror movies you see on cable that should be straight to DVD back in the day or whatever.
Did you guys?
It's a streaming service movie. Yeah, it's a streaming service movie now by today's standards. Right, streaming.
Should have been back then too.
Hey yo!
Doesn't throw it in a river and let it go downstream and forget about it.
Oh, I hate that I agree with you.
Do you want me to move the plot ahead a little bit?
Sure, yeah.
Sure.
So the first night, she gets haunted. Her blanket gets pulled up. She finds some charms from a charm bracelet that was broken. I feel like an idiot for not being like ALICE, but...
See, this is another thing. I immediately... this is the thing I remember when I first watched it. I was like, Alice. It's Alice. And then I remember turning to my friend and I went, Alice in Wonderland. She's crazy.
Oh yeah, that's a good point too.
Yeah. if you're crazy and you're a woman, there's going to be an Alice in Wonderland connection in the narrative that you're in. It's gonna happen. It's just the law. It's the law of Hollywood. Somebody should change that law.
Can we take 1 second to appreciate Jared Harris in this movie?
Yes. He's
because if
the only person that's acting.
Yeah, and he deserved a lot more screen time.
Yeah.
I was trying to do a good impression of him today, and I couldn't really quite get it down, but it's very excuse me. Wow. It's very throaty and slithery. Yes. He's got a slithery way of speaking.
But I find he almost always plays a similar character. Like, this is his character from Resident Evil Apocalypse.
Right.
It's not his character from Mad Men, though. His Mad Men character's a little different, but everything else. I saw him in Mad Men, when he pops up in other movies, I'm like, why is he more like domineering and more commanding when in Mad Men he's such a effete.
When he was when he was first introduced in the movie, I was looking at his tie because I'm like, is his tie a puzzle? And I was like, is this movie smart? Like, does it have a weird puzzle tie?
Oh my god!
And then he has, and then I thought he was gonna wear the tie the whole time. I'm like, we'll probably get more tie shots later, and we can figure out what it is. And he's wearing a completely boring, normal ass tie in the next sequence because his first tie is like a black tie with a bunch of squares, and they all have like numbers in them, like almost like binary. And I'm like, what is this? Is this a puzzle tie? Is this gonna be like a clue?
I made a note of that because you should make it puzzle tie t-shirt.
Okay, puzzle tie. Yeah. All right. We should see if Redbubble makes ties. We can just make our own puzzle ties. But I thought his name was, when he first introduced himself, he's like, "Hello, my name is Dr. Gerald," and I thought he said Springer. And I'm like, did he say his name is Gerald Springer?
Jerry.
And I'm like, is his name?
Jerry
My name
Springer.
is Dr. Jerry Springer. And at the end of the movie, it was going to be a fight between all the personalities, and he's like, Jerry.
His security guard's name's Steve.
Yeah.
No, that one that, remember
Deep
when
pull.
when she's going through the vent and she looks down and there's that one fucking NPC looking orderly? That guy, that's Steve, because he's like a giant bald man with a flashlight.
Yeah.
Kristen claims Jared Harris shows up to talk to her. She claims that someone came in the night. They're like, yeah, right. The nurse gives her meds. I assume there's sedatives, and she splits them out and stomps them right away. I wrote that this is Girl Interrupted coded. They're very different movies. Girl Interrupted takes itself seriously in a way that this movie also takes itself seriously, but it shouldn't. If this movie was more fun, it would be a better movie. You know what I mean? If John Carpenter put some of his John Carpenter black comedy, his little levity moments, like The Thing has laugh out loud stuff in it somehow.
Oh yeah.
This does not for the reason you may think.
I'm pretty sure we've all laughed at this movie a few times.
Yeah.
I was like,
I want to give I want to try and give credit throughout if we can, if it's possible. And a good blanket pull in a movie is always good if it's done correctly. And this movie was okay. There is something always spooky about somebody being unconscious and a blanket being pulled off. It like leaves the person vulnerable. It's mysterious and strange and uncomfortable. And finding the blanket under the bed is also like even more freaky, because people flail around in the night. I wake up and my pillows are like all over the fucking room sometimes. Like I must have crazy nightmares where I'm like, rah! But to have it like stuffed under the bed it's like the equivalent of finding it like folded neatly in the closet or something,
or outside your door, closed door,
just somewhere else, like where it's like I must have gotten up and walked around apparently. So like I do want to like give a tip of the hat to it, but at the same time, like there is again 100 other movies that do that and do it better. It feels like almost every single spook or scare in this movie is pulled from something else and isn't even remotely tweaked to make it more interesting. Like their version of changing this is like, what if some charm bracelet letters are in there and it clearly spells Alice, unless you're Jason, who's like, what is Clav? Clav.
I'm having a hard time talking about this movie seriously, because I now know when she's talking to the other girls, they're just her. So the reality of this is she's sitting in a room. And the doctor and the nurse and the orderlies all know this shit about her. So even more futile. She's just sitting in a room hatching plans with these people, but she's just sitting in a room talking to herself in reality.
Yeah. And they're probably already know.
Yeah. They're all listening, and they already know all this stuff about her. So it just feels like the whole movie builds up to this twist that's been done a million times. So talking about it or rewatching it, you'll never need to rewatch this movie. It's just there's no point. If you're trying to look for the little like clues, I don't think you guys both. Well, Ben, you only saw it once.
Twice.
Steve, you've seen it. Okay, so you guys have seen it twice. On the second viewing, are there any Easter eggs or hints or anything, or is it?
Well, I mean, Ben pointed out earlier that I didn't notice, even though I've seen it, I guess technically 3 times now, which is that they only write her first name, which is a really good point that I never actually picked up on, even though I'm like I'm hyper aware of these clues now, because I know what the end is going to be. But even when I was not, the one that it's not even a clue, it's just like it made me go, oh, I know what this is. It's when she confronts the doctor about Alice for the first time. And he's like, how did you know that name? And she's like, well, blah, 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 blah. And she just gives up. She spews exposition. She basically just recants the fucking movie, which is like so annoying. Where it's like, we know this. Like now you just have to say it to him to confirm it. It's like, we don't need this confirmation. And then he says like, I can't help you. You have to work this out on your own. And like in that moment, it's like, that's not what a therapist would do. He's here to help her. And it's not that he's saying he doesn't believe her, or that he's clearly believes her. And he's telling her that she has to go solve the mystery on her own, which is like, okay, well now that pretty much just puts the fucking stake into the vampire's chest for me about like whether or not she is actually just crazy. And like all these people are not copies, but like fractured versions of herself. That was like, even yesterday while I was watching it, I was like, oh, right. And Danny was like, what? And I'm like, well, do you want me to spoil the movie? I'm like, I can do it. And Danny was like, yeah, I don't care. And I'm like, they're all the same. They're all her. And it's like, this is the moment when I first watched it where I was like, oh yeah, they're all her.
There was a really good tell. And that was right before she's put in the straitjacket.
Mm-hmm.
The nurse is freaking out and like wants to give her that injection and everything. And she looks at Stringer and he's like, I just need a little more time with her. Like you talked to her twice during this movie so far. Like obviously there's more going on here. So we know she's much more important than
that's a good point. Yeah.
That's the movie's like equivalent of like taking a blanket and going, huh? And then going, huh? Like right afterwards, you know? Where like, cause like that moment, I'm already, because that happens after the moment that I just mentioned. And like at that point, you're just like, I kind of am like this. Yeah. Yes, we know. Let's go. Let's move on, people. I was almost more invested, though, at that point with the orderly and the nurse. I was like hoping that they would become more of characters, because now I'm like, I know what's going on. Give them more character. But the movie thinks that I'm so fucking stupid that I don't get it yet. No, we're not going to get any more from them. We have to explore this forever until the movie fucking ends. And it's so like you said, Ben, you said it perfectly, which is the movie's insulting. It makes you like the movie thinks that you're fucking stupid. And I hate that. I hate it so much. It's like because they show shit from the beginning of the movie 3 times throughout the movie. Like I fucking forgot about it. It's like, no, man, that happened like 30 minutes ago. I remember. I'm not like, I remember what happened. God damn it.
So Iris introduces herself to Kristen, and then I'm like, why are all the girls in the ward hot? Which was an interesting...
Well, it's right next to the burn ward, so it's probably going to be pretty hot in there.
Ayo. It's in retrospect, it's like she has all these personalities, but her self-reflection of it is that they're all equally attractive also.
Well, she thinks she's hot, maybe.
That's what I mean. It's adding these layers after the fact that are dumb and also maybe a little bit interesting.
My main question was like, why are they all act like children? I hate it's so uncomfortable. And they all sort of equally act like between the ages of like 9 and like 17, like is the like range of how they're acting, except for Kristen, which I guess the movie is supposed to be like, this is the adult, like she's the adult that's finally showing up. She's the version that is here to like break them free from their naivety, I guess, and like their childishness, but like she's also kind of like, she's just sort of like a until she's like, now I'm gonna punch your ass, stab
I'm
you,
gonna punch you, knock you out with one punch. I'm Superman.
You know, there is one small thing they could have done in this movie that would have helped sway how blatant the twist is, and that is just make one of the personalities a guy.
That's a good point.
I really think that would have been. It's something they don't tend to do, except for like Identity. But even like Sucker Punch, it's the exact same thing. Like it's so easy to tell what's going on. It's just laziness.
Well, Sucker Punch, at least like you're aware of it pretty. Like it's basically just Zack Snyder being like, I want to make a fucking anthology movie of weird fight music videos.
Yeah, true.
But you know what? That would have been a really good monkey wrench in the works for somebody like myself or you, who's like able to you know have the curse of like, I can predict what's gonna happen in this movie because it's a little too basic. That would have been a good idea. Even if it was, you know, somebody who was similar to them in a way, it would have thrown us off the scent a little bit. I think you're right about that. I never even considered that.
Slightly. Just something.
I always just thought it was supposed to be like only women are in this ward because it's the women's ward.
That's what I thought too.
But then you see like other areas as she's being marched through there, and there's like men and women sort of co-op to there. So what
if one of the orderlies was one of her personalities?
That would have been cool too. Yeah,
that would have been cool.
Like,
but that's not what happens.
One of them's helping them out all the time. No.
Yeah, one of the orderlies.
We're writing a better movie. Yeah.
It's true. Like, take all the points of this where we write a better film and make that a film, because it would be.
This movie should have been called The Board, and we could have been making The Ward, because it was boring.
Dr. Stringer tries to tell her she can't burn down a house she ran from. She has to face the trauma. She snags a knife, and she's not taking her meds. So she's got.
It's a letter opener, Jason.
I have a huge problem with that too.
Tell me about it.
The pillowcase? Me too, man. Fuck this shit. I hate it.
Oh no, the letter opener can just unlock doors.
Yeah. So can
I have a sneaking suspicion that the doors were never locked. Like they want her to be able to get out of her room whenever she wants. Because they're like, she needs to be able to explore her fucking crazy shit. Like you wouldn't be able to open it with I mean, it's 1966. Maybe they were just like turn, like, you know, those ones where you just like turn a little bit. It's not actually a big giant.
Where you can actually open the door with your thumbnail.
Yeah.
Like a bathroom stall.
I just kept being like, there's clearly a bathroom in her room, and she keeps hiding her pills in her pillowcase. Just flush them in the goddamn toilet. Like you can flush them, throw them down the sink. Why are you hiding them in there? They'll dissolve. Like they're not going to clog the drain. And do they not change the bedding on like your ward cell every week? Would they not be like, oh, this pillowcase is super heavy because it's full of 40 pills? Like, like what the fuck? It's just like it's like a tropey thing that they're like, and then she hides it in her pillowcase. Yeah. And you're not, what are we not supposed to think about that? Like they're not checking their room. They're not, this is the other thing.
Not checking the pillow.
If the movie was good,
prime to hide things.
I've said this a million times on the podcast. It's like, there's continuity errors and bad decision-making in lots of movies. You can find like 40 continuity errors in Jurassic Park, but because Jurassic Park is an amazing fucking movie, you don't even register them. They're not there because the movie is so compelling and you're so invested that you can't pinpoint those things. Whereas a movie like this, all you do the entire time is be like, let me nitpick the shit out of this because
you're
I'm bored as
nothing
fuck.
else to
You're
do.
bored. Yeah.
So she tries to escape. She doesn't make it out. She gets fucking grabbed almost immediately. Put back in. Then we start meeting the girls a little bit more. Sarah's a crazy person. Iris is a child. The hot girl is, hot or whatever. There's experimental therapy being used, which we find out, and then they have a dance party. Speaking of fucking tropes for this kind of movie.
What song did you guys think was gonna play?
Da-da, lollipops and pops and
that's a good pick. Because there's a good beat where she pulls it out and then she opens the thing and she puts the record on and then she is about to like put it on and you're like, what song is it gonna be? This is like the most exciting part of the whole fucking movie for me. I'm like, what song is it gonna be? And
true suspense.
Yeah, and it really was nothing that I thought. I thought it was gonna be like,
I can't remember.
And then it would be like a weird montage of them all taking pills and then falling asleep because of the drugs. Oh, what a cool like moment that would have been. No, it's just some random fucking song.
But then it gets spooky and you can hear the monster sounds and the Iris is like, I don't like the dark. And I'm like, you're in the dark every night. At this point, I don't know. She's just a person in an asylum. Are you just in your room every single night, just like cowering? Because I guess that would make sense.
The answer is yes, but also the answer is no because she's just.
I don't like the dark.
The thing is that like when Christine goes into her room, all of those people disappear. They turn into nothingness, right? Like they're not.
When she gets knocked out by sedatives because she's acting out.
Yeah. But we can assume that
writing. That's a note I actually wrote.
Oh.
Yeah.
Ben, did you have a prediction for the song it was going to be?
No. I just wanted it to end.
You didn't think it was going to be like ding, 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 ding.
No, the one song I think would have made sense would be Spooky. I thought that would have been a really good call.
Because I'm spooky by Pharrell.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Because you got a spooky hat. Come and get your spooky hat.
But seriously, a spooky little girl like you would be really good.
Yeah, there's so many other songs that would have made sense to the story, but they chose a song that I don't think really did anything other than just fill a moment of them to dance and then have the power go out. And then
the power goes out. Yeah.
Really nothing I think they see her in the dark, right? At this point, like lightning flashes and she's like, ah! And you're like, oh, she's there.
Yeah.
She's in the
room.
Is
Alice also a personality inside of her head?
Alice is her. Alice is the real personality.
Yeah.
Right. But like the zombie ghost.
That's her trying to come back. She's trying to be like, I'm the real person. All of her personalities killed
Gerald
her.
Stringer is like, I know that she's got
I'm sorry, Jason. You have to refer to him by his Christian name, which is Jerry Springer.
Jerry Springer is like, I know that she's got this film slasher inside of her mind that's killing all of her personalities. And this is the experimental therapy credits.
Well, what he knows is like,
I know that your real personality was murdered by all of the other personalities. And as soon as I thought we were making progress to bring Alice back, you arrived. Christine, the badass.
Who was in her early 30s or whatever the fuck. And it's like, okay, well, fuck.
Yeah.
No, she may as well have rolled up on a motorcycle in a leather jacket in front of the insane asylum with a cigarette, being like, I'm going to take care of these fucking personalities. Which maybe would have been a better movie.
What were you going to say, Ben?
I was just saying it's so bloated, like that one part of the story. Like there's Alice and then like 5 other personalities. It's kind of like this movie is a 30-minute story that took an hour and 40 minutes to tell. Like there's just too much to it that doesn't need to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And once you get a taste of like the, like you were calling them breadcrumbs, Jason, they soon go from breadcrumbs to like somebody just cut the whole fucking bread
Just
bag
hand you a
open.
loaf
Loaves of bread.
Yeah, there's just
Yeah.
the whole ward smells like a bakery. You're like, oh God. And because then they, like, as people start dying, they start running to people's rooms and all their shit is already packed up and it's like, okay, because she's
That made no sense to me.
Well, to me it made sense because those rooms are always packed up. Like they've never not been packed up. So she's running in there to check to be like, is Emily in her room? But her shit is all packed up because her shit was never actually out, right? It was always packed up.
And these are more breadcrumbs that you're talking about because the orderlies don't really talk about the others.
Yeah, it was supposed to be breadcrumbs, but to me it's like, no, the bakery's on fire. Fucking Christine lit the bakery on fire. We already know. Like those rooms, maybe when she looks at them, she sees a whole bedroom of someone, but in reality they're all rolled up mattresses, and like when she's running in there, it's not like they cleaned it up real quick. It's like, no, it always looked like that.
Well, the thing is, that's what she would have to see. Otherwise, it's pointless to write people's names on the chalkboards outside the rooms.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like she would have to see?
Well, if the nurse is like rubbing the name Tammy off the chalkboard.
Oh no, I'm talking about the interiors specifically.
No,
right?
Yeah, I know, but if they're not actually made up, if they're already like rolled up and waiting for like a new patient or something.
Oh, okay.
Why even write the names outside the doors?
I think, yeah, that's probably just part of the therapy. You know, the doctor's like,
Yeah.
Make sure that you spell the name correctly this time. The last patient lost their fucking shit when they're like, I thought you spelled Siobhan in the North American way, not the Irish way.
Well,
or it's just a way of making sure that they're confusing the shit out of the viewer, so they won't figure it out, even though you do it immediately anyway.
Yeah,
something that
I
was
feel like
a red
anytime
flag.
we run into like a little thing like this, it's always going to be like, it's bad writing. It's just bad writing.
Something that was a red flag for me was this next part where Amber Heard just has access to everything. Like she just go wherever she wants, because she's like looking through like books and files and cupboards, and she's like taking stuff. And is that part of it too? Do they just let her have free run so she feels like she's like trying to escape, and that's part of the therapy? Like
the way I would look at it, which is like, you can look at it in any fucking way you want because really none of it makes sense at all. Is the doctor is probably like, just let her fucking explore for a bit, make her feel like she's doing something, because if she feels like she's doing something, it might make progress for them to, you know, reduce the redundancy in terms of all of these personalities. Or the nurse just went on break. She's like, I gotta go to the bathroom. Where's fucking Roy? And Roy's like putting out a turd fire in the actual ward. It's like, God damn it.
Why are they just letting their turds on fire?
I don't know. I said turd fire really early on, and I'm going to use it forever now.
It would make the movie more enjoyable.
Yeah,
it's true.
If it just cut to Roy being like, "Stop throwing your flaming turd," like a flaming turd going behind his head. He's like, "God damn it, not again!" He's got turd stains on his white jacket and burn marks. Yeah,
and they're indecipherable from one another because they're.
It would make Roy a lot likable as a character.
Brown and black. Yeah. We get the shower scene. This is how you know it's not a John Carpenter movie. I'm realizing John Carpenter's never put any gratuitous nude women in like any of his movies I can really think of. I think there's a sex scene in They Live, sort of.
Yeah, there's boobs in it, but it's like at the end, and it's clearly a joke. Like it's just a joke. Yeah. And
this felt really weird. I know I said that to you, Steve. You're like, it's pretty sterile. It's not that gratuitous, but it feels so out of place for a John Carpenter movie. And it lingers a little too long for what the scene ultimately does for the movie. Just to show that this monster is everywhere.
Yeah. I agree.
It's horribly drawn out for no reason.
Yeah. Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
And and it's not even really titillating, you know, it's just it is very clinical in the way it's shot. I feel like the studio was like, you have to have, it's a slasher movie, you have to have
like
some kind of something a draw for the teens to be like, I get to see some areola, and it's like, no, you don't. But
no side boob.
You get implied nudity or actual nudity, but like the implication is you might see a nipple if you look hard enough. And I feel like maybe that was like John Carpenter's rebellious attitude towards this. He's like, I'm going to film it because they have told me I have to, but I'm going to make it very clinical. And it's literally them just cleaning themselves, and it's not going to feel sexy at all.
You know how to make this better? You change it to John Carpenter's The Clinic. You focus on the doctors and they're panicking, trying to solve these multiple personalities, or like try and figure out what's happening or how to stop it before they actually end up killing Alice.
That's kind of cool too. Yeah.
Before the reveal, do they still show the different characters with different actors from their point of view? And then they merge into like kind of like what this movie ends up doing, sort of. Yeah. I like that. It's a more interesting idea than like, remember that movie Girl Interrupted? People like that. Let's make it a slasher.
I feel like that works. Like. That works, Ben. That works like really well as like an idea for a novel, but I feel like filming it would be really hard to do.
But it immediately creates suspense, and you know that all of this story has to be wrapped up in the runtime of the movie. And as it gets closer to the end time, like you just
there is something to be said that would be really interesting to like have those medical professional characters having to try and figure out which personality they're dealing with in the moment. Right?
Yeah,
which is
exactly.
Which is kind of the cool part about Split and Glass is like he's always played by what's his name? James McAvoy. It's always him, but he like, you know, he goes rigid, or he like, you know, has sort of like a flourish to his arm movements or his facial gestures in ways that like you can tell what character he's meant to be. But that's part of like the intrigue of that character is like sometimes he is a character pretending to be another one because he knows he can get away with it. Yeah. I think that would be a much cooler idea. I don't know if John Carpenter would be the one to direct it, but I do think that is a better idea than this. I mean, I've said it again. I mean, I've said it before, and I'll say it again through many more times in this podcast. It's just disappointing. It doesn't fail spectacularly, but it spills the milk as it's trying to hand it to you. You know, like what the fuck?
I got milk all over me.
Jesus.
We do see an apparition that just turns out to them showing the full zombie ghost. She breaks down and cries. They drug her again and give her electroshock therapy. And electroshock therapy, I just want to say, makes me uncomfortable every time I see it in a movie. Yeah. It is one of the most inhumane things you can do to a person in that setting. And I hate it. I hate it so much. That was
Jason
probably
used to lick batteries when he was a kid.
Listen, you connect your tongue on one of those square batteries, you get a little. But real talk, it's probably realistically the scariest thing in this movie is somebody getting electroshocked against their will.
It's still
even in like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, when he comes back, you're like, oh man, and he's not the same. Whenever they're not the same. This movie's stupid, so she's just fine after. She's fine 10 hours later. She just wakes up and she's like, oh, I have a headache. But when it's used effectively, it's terrible. It's horrifying, and I think it's just gross in this movie.
Isn't it still used? Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's still used.
I don't know. Donald Trump will probably bring it back.
He's like, could bring it back. Love it. Worked wonders.
Lobotomies for everyone.
On all my children. Yeah. They're all.
That's what he does before every speech.
He
gets shocked before he goes up there, and he's like, "Ooh, hello, shocking, isn't it?"
Oh God,
that's funny. I laughed at that legitimately.
Yeah.
Oh, and the orderly is even like, I thought we stopped doing that, and the other guy's like, shut up, I'm a bad guy.
Or else you're getting the ice bath. We definitely stopped doing that one. And then we get it's so frustrating because like it's a slasher movie, but like it is at its core the conceit is like, how can we turn all of these inhumane, horrific ways that we used to treat mental illness as like ways to kill people, and they're all unsatisfying. There's not a single one in this movie that has the bravado or the gravitas of like a Jason Voorhees snapping somebody in half. You know, like none of them are good. Yeah, like they're all kind of boring and lame. Like there's not a single kill in this movie that I was like pretty good. Maybe the throat slit, just because like they did the full like open jacket, like lots of blood coming out, and I was like, oh, that was, I didn't expect that, because all the other kills were so fucking lame.
I think that's why it was so effective, because the others were terrible.
Yeah.
For the lobotomy, I still thought that there was some sort of... So in my next note, I say basically like they have a group chat session and they talk about Tammy and how she got out. And I was like, is the experimental therapy that this place is haunted and the ghost is helping?
That's actually a good idea too, Jason. That would be a better idea than what this movie is.
Jerry Springer is like, I got this haunted insane asylum and it's the only way I can help these girls is with this ghost. But when I see the lobotomy go in the wrong way and kill her, I'm like, that's not how you do a lobotomy. You just
like the idea of Christine going into Jerry Springer's office and finding like a weird fucking like Necronomicon or like a tablet or some shit, and he's like, I figured out a way to raise the dead. And you're like, what? Like that's a better movie. That's a better movie than this, and
that's
more
John
of a
Carpenter.
Yeah, it's a more John Carpenter concept as well. Yeah. And he's like,
this movie is more of like I don't know if you guys know. Do you know Charles Band at all? He did like Full Moon Features, and he had Empire and a bunch of film companies. So he did like Doll Man and Puppet Masters and stuff like that.
Puppet Master is what I know.
Puppet Master. Okay.
Yeah. So this feels like a high-end version of a Charles Band film, and that's not a good thing.
No, but I mean, even some of those Puppet Masters are like way better than this. Not necessarily the ones where they all turn into super Nazis, but I mean the Nazi connection is pretty early on, I guess.
Yes.
But I also kind of like the gingerbread man. Gary Busey as a gingerbread man killing people. Come on.
Yes.
Come on.
So Iris is getting released because she's cured and she's on top of the world.
She's also, I think, the most unlikable. Maybe the little girl is the most unlikable, actually, but she's like the next unlikable because she seems to be mentally the least mature other than the little girl. To me, at least. And like almost every single word that comes out of her mouth reminds me of like a mean girl in high school where you just want to be like, shut the fuck up. And like, but her whole thing is like, shut the fuck up. And I'm like, wait, am I the mean girl? Jesus. I want to tell her to shut the fuck up. And
Iris is the artist with the glasses who's from Kick-Ass.
Oh, sorry. I'm thinking
the mean girl is the redhead who looks like
I'm thinking of the one who gets electrocuted, not the one who gets stabbed in the eye.
I thought Sarah was
Iris.
Was the blonde. I have the fucking
Sarah.
Oh, Emily is Mamie Gummer. Yeah, you're right. Sarah is Danielle Panabaker.
Yeah.
And she's the mean girl. She's the one that's the whore, as Steve said.
Hey, listen, I wouldn't call her that if she wasn't acting like one.
But yeah, Iris is kind of sweet. She's like she's actually, in my opinion, the most normal of the bunch. And it made sense for a moment that she was cured and getting out. And then she goes into the office with Jerry Springer, and he asks her like 3 questions, and she starts to unravel. And then they send her down the hallway, and they disappear her with a spike to the nasal cavity.
Again, none of this is like it. What is actually happening is that Alice is in the room, and he's hypnotizing her. And then in that hypnotization session, what's happening is Iris has now been disconnected from Alice, and she wakes up on her own being taken by Alice. Alice is taking Iris and stabs her in the eye. Oh, Iris gets stabbed in the eye. Whoa, crazy. That's fun. But why do you think that she is the most sane? Is it because she's able to express herself through other means? Is like, like the movie thought acting... this, is it that deep, bro, kind of thing? Or is it like just
at this, I don't know. At this point, Mean Girl, I was thinking about Girl Interrupted the whole time because the cast in that has
seems like
a lot of the same.
Yeah.
Well, it was a very pivotal movie for my teen.
Is that the movie where she's like, "I'll never tell"? Or is that a
I
different
think
movie?
so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's like Luann from King of the Hill, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I'll never. And it also has Elizabeth.
I don't
what's
think I've
her
ever
face?
seen that movie, to be honest with you.
It's good. It's fine. It's got Winona Ryder and Angelina Jolie and Elizabeth, whatever her name is, from Handmaid's Tale.
And the
characterization.
Like, when I was in high school, specifically, these types of movies like frightened me. Like mental illness was scary to me, and like a lot of movies were like, and then she's crazy, and you're like, oh my god, crazy. That's scarier than a ghost, because that's like your own mind coming to get you. And I mean, I guess to this day, like The Shining is way scarier to me than any like jump scare stuff, because it's just
Midsummer. Fucking, I can't even rewatch it. It's too like. Ugh.
I've watched that movie so many times specifically because it actually scares me. Like this is the other thing. It's like the movies that actually scare me, I want to watch over and over again. Where this kind of stuff, I'm just like, I don't need to ever watch.
That's why I watched The Wicker Man.
The Wicker Man,
the
Nicolas Cage one, or
no.
Yeah,
not the bees. He's like, I'm stepping on so many bees right now.
Just punching women out. Right. So we kind of covered it, but the orderly comes and gets her. She's not there. Looks like the nurse is taking her somewhere. Sounds like it's full of monsters, but we know that none of this is happening, I guess. And she gets a lobotomy that goes too far, and then Kristen is now on the hunt for Iris.
The joke that me and Danny made during this entire sequence was when he turns on the metronome, and I was like, "Oh God, a metronome!" And it was like,
"Yeah."
And then Danny was like, "You're getting sleepy," and then Danny also said, "I'm getting sleepy." And then we proceeded to do a joke where he fell asleep, and that's why she got away, because he fell asleep in the office.
He hypnotized himself.
Yeah.
So Kristen finds Iris's drawings, and they're all very nice. And on one page, the spooky ghost zombie monsters in there. And we find out about a person called Alice, which relates to the charms from earlier. I wrote, could have picked a longer name, no? And then I felt stupid for not realizing it was Alice, because there's only 5 letters. I should have. But nope, Well,
this is when dyslexia comes in handy. When somebody gives you a fistful of fucking letters, your brain is like, Alice.
Yes, this person's name was obviously Lycia.
Yeah.
Iris. Kristen confronts the doctor and he gaslights her, and she freaks out. And the doctor looks nervous, asks the others about Alice, and they also act freaked out. The doctor seems to think things are escalating, which I think kind of works in his favor. It's kind of like what he wants to happen. And they all plan to make a break in the night. And this is, I think we see the montage of her like explaining how to like prop a door open with Kleenex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is also like, I was
like, they don't check for that stuff.
I was watching this movie with like intensity enough. Like I was trying to take everything in. And then once when she's all of a sudden in her room, I was like, how the fuck she get in there? And then they leave the other room, like, how the fuck they getting out of here? And then only until they pull out the thing, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that dumb thing. That fucking dumb thing that they specifically showed me. I forgot about, because this movie is not, it's not able to, I'm not able to hold on to the things that I'm like, oh God.
For instance, for some reason, she's like, give me that penny in your mouth that we haven't even established. Gives it to her. Then they go to the bathroom.
That was the most horrifying part of the whole movie, when she
just had a penny in her.
I was like, oh, don't you know how dirty money is, you sick fuck?
A penny in your mouth.
Yeah, you're the real pervert, not the whore or whatever.
Put that on a shirt. You're the real pervert, not the whore. They go to the wash. The most egregious thing is she opens the whole ass vent with this penny, which is like.
Also, do one of these, like before you go in there, go like this. Get the fucking cobwebs out of there. You can see them.
Yeah.
The movie lighting is showing them so well. They're all highlighted. Instead, she walks face first into a cobweb, like the whole time.
And we get a
also.
a
I think the line for that was, "Thank God these vents are so big."
Yeah.
They're like, there's no vents that big ever anywhere, none, unless you're on like a weird like gas mine or something where they need to get a lot of air out quick. This is a movie vent, people. This is a movie vent.
If you're in Metal Gear Solid, or if you're the Ninja Turtles and you go into the sewers and it's got a hole, it's giant.
And you're like, ding ding ding.
There's like a trope.
Ding ding ding. Or you're like, dun, 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 dun.
Everybody's eating pizza and the cheese pull on the pizza is just like,
and then a cardboard box comes up next to them and like, dun, dun, and like a hand comes out and takes a slice. It's Metal Gear Solid. He's eating the pizza with the turtles,
smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
Did you have something to add there, Ben? Sorry, we were riffing on Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, no, I know. I was just reacting to it. No, that's fine.
We were combining Metal Gear Solid and Ninja Turtles together into one thing.
Yeah. Solid Michelangelo.
Yeah.
The orderly actually, when they're going through the vent, the orderly actually looks up, which I was like,
yeah,
they never do that. They don't see her, but they should have, because her face was fully over the vent.
Jason's like, I was an orderly for 10 years, and I know that we never looked up once.
In our training, they say never look up at the vent. There could be a person up there looking.
Someone might throw flaming turds into your eyes.
Or Amica cream.
Or Amica cream, yeah.
They don't get caught.
This guy is the most NPC looking person I've ever seen in my life. Like, he is jacked for some reason. He's bald. He's got a cleft meat man chin. He looks like the starting character in any like MMO before you add hair or anything. And like the reason I call him an MMO, an NPC is like, he looks like the character where they're like, we don't have time to render hair. Just make him bald. And he's like, and then he just walks away. He just walks away. Yeah. He's an NPC.
Also, I thought Amber Heard's performance was kind of all over the place. She does this little thing where she like is smirking at one point that I was like, what are you doing with your face? And I feel like she doesn't know who this character is, and maybe she is trying to do little tells that she's all the characters, but she's not.
In her defense, not that I would ever defend Amber Heard, because God knows only weird creeps do that. We've seen the footage from Court TV. Amica cream? But like, it seemed like she was acting well in scenes, but the acting she was doing was not tailored for the scene she was in. Like when the doctor is like, "Sir, what do you remember before the fire?" and she's like crying or whatever, and it's like, okay, I can understand not knowing your memory would be scary, but the type of crying she's doing is not suited for that moment, you know? Or I'm like, this seems like maybe a realization, or, you know, anyway, like I yeah, fuck this movie. Like, there's so many things. It's like trying to shove puzzle pieces into other puzzle pieces that are from another puzzle. They're not even from the same puzzle.
It's like she went up to Carpenter or asked, looking into the camera right before they started, like, what's my motivation? And he's like, motivation?
Yeah. He's like, didn't you get paid? Yeah.
Your motivation is money. Now let's get this piece of shit shot.
He's playing fucking NBA 2010, and he's like, what? Action! And she's like, what?
Yeah.
He's like, go, you're wasting film.
It's digital.
Nothing but that.
Oh man, that made me lightheaded.
That was good.
So
yeah, I agree with you. Fuck this movie.
There's other people in this facility. There's the dudes that they show here briefly. We see them again later. And then I wrote, maybe the girls are in a special make into zombies ward. So this is even another ripple of my idea.
It's a zombie ward. It's like a Frankenstein ward where he's
turning them into
trying to figure out how to bring them back to life.
When they go down into the basement, they turn them into a zombie. And in the basement are the zombies of all these insane women.
So there's this shot.
Zombie ghosts.
There's a shot here where she like comes out, and there's like a guy he's at like the front security desk or something, and he's like, and he gets up to leave. And I'm like, it's a very good shot. Like the way it's like low and like it makes him seem intimidating. And then he just gets up and he walks down this long hallway. And everything about the architecture in here is like very nice. And the cinematography of the scene is nice, but it's there for no other purpose other than to like show that shot and to watch this guy walk away. Why is he walking away? There's no this is me and Danny did this. All right, time for me to make my rounds. First stop, the crapper. She's like, oh God, I got shit. And he like ran down the hallway. Like why did he leave? Like there's no reason for him to leave other than they just got there and the movie needs him to move.
It needs them to leave. They could do a little thing where they
didn't throw the penny. Like a bolt that they saved from the vent down. Like
the penny.
The penny, the pervert penny could have ran down the hallway. He could have been like, oh, a lucky penny. That's my lucky day. And ran after it. But no, none of that happens. The guy just gets up and leaves. It's
funny that you mentioned all the cool things in the morgue, because they get to the morgue and I wrote some cool implements. I was expecting, like you, that they were going to have some sort of horror-esque moment, but they really just don't. They hide in the most obvious places, which was hilarious. I think they hide
behind a desk, and then one goes in the broom closet. Yeah, and
they don't get caught. Emily hides in a morgue.
Well, they almost get caught by a hand. Like this is, I keep bringing this hand up that comes up behind her shoulder. That's like it's from the images behind you. I think it's one of the actual hands.
No, that's exactly what. So Emily, we think she's hiding in the morgue freezer. Then we get a dumb jump scare of like the telegraph her opening it, and nothing happens. And then and the hand comes up, and it's really bad CGI because for some reason they use like a practical hand, I think, but then there's like weird like things crawling all over the inside of the skin. That's bad CGI. First, like why?
It's
like,
to make it scarier. It's to make it scarier. Yeah, like I think the hand without that would have been better, because like that makes it's distracting. Like it looks like shitty CGI now, but even in 2010, it's like, what was wrong with the zombie hand? Like you could have the zombie hand without the weird CGI worms underneath it. If you want to really creep us out, put actual pumps and stuff underneath there and make it be like throbbing or something. Like that's more frightening. But like that moment when the hand comes down in the morgue hole, you know, like it's rattling. So the only assumption I would have if me and my friend were hiding in a morgue and everybody left being like, they're not in here, let's go, would be my friend decided to hide in there and is stuck. I gotta let them out. I would not even for a moment hesitate to open it. So I'm already like, okay, just open it. Just open it. I'm like, the whole time I'm thinking, just open it. So I'm like annoyed that she hasn't opened it. And then she opens it. There's nothing in there. And you're like, oh, spooky. Nothing's in there. It was rattling for no reason. And then bling, a hand pops out at you. And you're like, okay. Well,
and then she bonks her head and gets caught. Anyway.
Yeah. But
and more flashbacks of Alice.
Other version of her, which is also her, stole the knives, which we know about later. But also maybe she didn't steal the knives because she kills a version of, like, you know, this is the other thing where you're like, they're adding all this stuff in here, and it's like, is it her own narrative? Is she just in bed being like, oh, and then I kill her, and then I kill her? Like, what's that? What's going on? Is she actually acting it all out? Is she just dreaming? Like, who fucking knows?
Well, and that's the thing too, because like you'll have different personalities doing different things in different areas of the ward at the exact same time. So
they do
who's actually doing what?
Yeah, they do an okay job of like not cutting back and forth between two people doing something at the same time. Like there aren't really moments where that happens. It's always like there's one person doing one thing right now and the other person is somewhere else and we don't know where they are. Like there's never really a moment where two things are happening simultaneously.
There is though.
When
like there's one scene, I don't know if it's Sarah had like some weird experience, and like she walks into the common room, and one of the other personalities is watching television, and like they're
But
actually
they're there
doing,
together at the same time, right?
yeah, but it does also cut back to
What I mean to
with
say is
like
there's
discovering the AH on the foot of the rabbit as something else is happening.
right.
Like it's
What I mean
it's editing
to
to
say,
mislead.
yeah, what I mean to say is there's never a moment where like Christine is inside the door or the broom closet, and then Emily runs out, and we're following Emily up the stairs to the bathroom, and it cuts back to Christine in the closet. You know, like that kind of like same action happening at the same time. Like they don't do that, which again is me really trying hard to be like, good job movie for not doing that. Like you at least have that sort of consistency in the idea that like if somebody else is doing something else, the two of them must be interacting at the same time, or else your whole conceit falls apart. But again, Ben, I'm just
maybe
like,
that's
I have to be able to be like they had tried to do something,
because I feel like John Carpenter would have been like, why don't we just do the whole hand practical? And there were like studio notes, so they probably had like people doing things in different rooms, cutting back and forth, and John Carpenter would have been like, this doesn't make sense. Can we focus people?
Maybe, but I'm going to bring it back to Identity for a minute. That movie does the fantastic job of being like, no, they are all collective consciousnesses, and they all have their own personalities and their own lives that they're living while they're not in the spotlight or whatever, to pull a phrase from Split, is like they're still existing, they're still living, and they're still doing their own thing. And I like that more. I think that's more interesting, because if somebody is just like, anytime they're not live, they're just sleeping, like that's kind of boring. And that's what this is, right? Like it's the boring version of Identity. I love the idea of all of them having to like partner up and fight against like other personalities. That's really cool and interesting. And this movie is boring and not interesting until
well, this is the point where we get a really gross flashback to a big fat guy unbuckling his belt with her chained up. And that, you know, I get it. If somebody's chained up in a room, you don't have to be like, blah, 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 blah.
You didn't even have to show the belt. Yeah, you're right. Like it reminds me of when we did Split, when they did the same sort of thing, right? Where they're like, we have to show trauma. And
when they're like, here, come over here behind this rock.
Yeah. And it's like, people who experience trauma can recognize it from a million miles away, and you don't need to do that kind of stuff. But even if you need to telegraph it for the people that don't, maybe just pull it back 10% from where you think it needs to be. And
walking into the room and looking like that was enough.
Yeah. Even just him opening the door was enough, I think.
Yeah.
If she's chained up like that, I think, you know, like at the very least, you know that nothing good is going to happen. You don't need to show a giant man unbuckling his belt. Yeah. It's fucking. There was a collective groan from me, and we were both like, "Oh, okay,
yeah,
all right, we get it. We already got it. We got it the first time you show the flashback. Like, just show her face. You could even if no, I was about to say you could even just have the sound of the belt unbuckling and not show it, and it would be just as effective. But no, just him being there is effective. And then you can stitch together the loose ends later when the doctor is being like, you are kept in a barn and, well, let's just say bad shit went down, if you know what I mean.
And everybody be like, yeah, we got it.
We get it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm starting to wonder how
we
much
get it,
this
Jerry
was actually directed by Carpenter.
What?
And how much was like the first AD. Yeah. Kind of like Poltergeist, the story about Tobe Hooper and Spielberg. Like, did Hooper actually direct Poltergeist?
Yeah.
Or did Spielberg step in?
Was John Carpenter actually just playing video games on set? Like, he's like, I got my Xbox. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Like, sure, John. Yeah. Just all we
We're
really paid you for was
to
slap your name on this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's John Carpenter's like the rest of your movies, so people are going to think that this is all you, written or directed. But
and he's like, I haven't made a movie in 10 years. I don't give a fuck.
And I'm not going to make another one after this. So
yeah.
And he's like, in fact, I'm not even going to make one right now. So go ahead, direct the movie. I'll be in my trailer.
I need more V-Bucks. Fortnite exists in this alternate reality. It's like, I need
Can
V-Bucks.
you believe that they're making me pay for the Michael Myers skin? Ding, 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 ding. I wrote this song.
So yeah, so I almost tricked myself into getting the ending here, and I wrote, or maybe it's Amber Heard, like maybe it's Kristen, but I'm still stupid at this point. So she's back in her room. We get that scene of the redhead hitting on the orderly. He's like, ugh, fuck no. And then he goes, get out of here, I'm swamped. And all he's doing is putting a vent cover back on. Like, how hard is this? He's just putting the vent cover back on and he's swamped. What a funny thing to say.
I think that he's been having flaming turds thrown at him all day in the other ward. And he comes over here and he's like, I gotta fucking fix the vents too. What am I? Like, I'm not a maintenance
make this
man.
last as long as possible.
He's like, I went to medical school for 4 years. Just because I didn't become a doctor doesn't mean that I have to be the janitor of the ward. Like, I know how to administer medical treatments. What the fuck is going on? But you know, like, this character is weird because like the movie portrays him as being a villain almost
he's
entirely.
like a foil. Yeah.
But at the end of the movie, which we'll talk about when we get to it, but like it seems like he isn't, and he cares about her. And you're like, is this them creating him as a villain because they want to escape? And like, or like, how much of that is him being a dick? Like, you know, when he's like, have a good sleep, sugar, or whatever. It's like, is he actually saying those things, or is it her own version of the events? Is it a mixture? Maybe.
I like what you did though, Steve. Like, I think he's over it because it's the same person doing all of
well,
the
the
stuff.
reason they hired Nurse Half Eyes or whatever, where she's always kind of like you know, like her eyes are always like she's like, hold on a minute, hold the fuck on, I have to no right. Isn't that am I wrong? Like she's got half moon glasses, but it's her eyeballs, you know, where her eyes are just always like she's looking at the top half of her eyes the whole time. I can't even do.
Maybe she's a personality as well.
Yeah. Her personality is the lack of personality that you get when you're like in between personalities. Well,
she acts so intimidating until she's pressed even a little bit, like a little bit later in the movie, and then she just like,
Also, what was her name?
Nurse, up to my...
like Trunk or something? Trunk?
Lunt.
Lund. Like lint, but Lund. Yeah. She was fine.
She was good. She was effective. Like, there was like always something off-putting about her, but then you realize that it's because she's just fed up with this shit. She's like, I don't know why I'm on the ward duty.
Well, every asylum has to have that same nurse. There's that character is in every asylum.
I mean, but listen, you have to think about the fact that she is assigned to a ward that has one person in it. Like, she's not dealing with a bunch of different patients. Because if you're working in a situation like this, she could be interacting with like 25 patients a day, and then she might have her favorite patients, she might have her least favorite patients, and then there'll be the in-between patients. But at least she'll get something out of her interactions with the patients she likes, and then she'll have the negative interactions with the ones that she doesn't like. But in this, she is just dealing with one patient who she does not like. She's like, I'm here to watch this one fucking insane person, and you keep telling me that just a few more experiments, I swear. We just need to shock her brain and let her fight her own fucking mental battles, and it'll be fine. So she's like, she doesn't want to be there, you know, and neither does Roy. Like, none of them want to be there. They're upset that they're being forced to guard the ward, and it's just one person, which I do like that concept. I think that concept is really cool. And Ben, when you brought up the idea of like, imagine these people having to like deal with this one person who's going ballistic, that's a fun idea. But you know, like in this movie, it comes off as just like a weird wooden character who is like, oh, she's being wooden because of this, but you have to think about it. And like, the movie doesn't really reward you for that. Like, the reason that I'm thinking about it right now is because we're talking about it.
There are no rewards in this movie.
Yeah.
No.
Like, I wouldn't walk out of that movie and be like, that nurse Lunt, she really did a good job of portraying the fact that she was fed up with having to guard one person. You're not going to think about that.
Every time we cut to another scene, I just sigh.
Yeah.
Like just waiting for credits.
Waiting for credits. That's how I feel about my life. They all fight with the redhead. It's looking pretty bleak. She sees the zombie woman now, and we get another fucking ham-fisted jump scare during all this of the zombie. And the zombie gets the redhead and takes her to the death zone, the freak zone, and she gets death by electroshock. And in high def, the makeup was so low budget that it looked painted on before the CGI kicks in and the better like burnt up effect. There's a close-up of her face, and it looks like they just painted on the veins.
Well, I hate to break it to you, Jason, but they do paint on all makeup.
No, I know, I get that, but it didn't look touched up.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
I think
it also looks that way in standard def too, Jason.
Yeah,
okay,
it's not great.
My main issue with it was that she was doing a poor job of being electrocuted. Like she was not selling that electrocution at all.
Yeah.
When we get to our plugs, we'll show you how it's done.
Yeah. She was just doing this.
I'm being electrified.
And like, I don't want to do it right now, but I could sell being electrocuted way better than that. Like so much better. You just like you can do anything. Like there's so much you could do. And like I can't imagine that like John Carpenter was probably being like, why the fuck am I directing a movie that is starring like 5 20-year-old women? Like again, who told me to do this?
How did I get here?
Yeah.
How did I
he was probably like,
situation?
should I tell her to act like she's being electrocuted a little bit more aggressively? He's probably like, nah, that's fine.
I got paid. They paid me up front for this.
Yeah, and he's like, I heard they just made a sequel. I think a game called Skyrim is coming out soon. Man, I gotta finish my Oblivion file. And he went back to his trailer. But I mean, I did have a huge issue with this, and I told you about it earlier, where she gets caught in the kitchen and there's a fucking deli blade behind her, and I'm like, fucking slice her face like a deli blade. Like I want to see that. Not that I'm like I want to see someone's. It's just like that's a creative way to kill somebody, and that's what I thought was going to happen. But then they have to go to like the ward tortures or whatever, and it was poor. It was very poorly done. Her feet weren't moving enough. Her hands weren't moving enough. Her face wasn't moving enough. Even if that's not accurate to how people are electrocuted, I don't know. I've never seen someone get electrocuted to death, but we can imagine what it looks like, and it has to be horrifying. And she just looked like she was mildly uncomfortable while like you said, Jason, like painted makeup slowly appeared on her face, like it just like magically started to appear, and then a bunch of blood came out of her mouth, and you're like, that.
Yeah, she does
that happens either, does it?
I don't know. Maybe when you get electrocuted brain first, you bleed out your esophagus. I don't care.
Yeah. No, it bleeds. Your tummy blows up, and then a bunch of blood comes out of
your tummy. It turns out the stuffed animal that Zoe was cradling like a baby is Alice's, and Zoe reveals.
Wait, are you telling me that a rabbit is connected to Alice? Holy fuck!
Oh
Jason,
my God.
what the heck?
It turns out that the other girls knew about Alice. Alice was bad and hurt them. Tammy was trying to help before Alice got disappeared. They got rid of her, and now she's exacting revenge? ? And
They also
Emily's
never say
trying.
why Alice was mean or what she did or anything. It's just like she
No,
was
don't
so
need to know.
mean. It's like no, she was the real personality who was like stop
Destroyed human being.
Yeah, just like I need you personalities to leave me alone for 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Stop acting like little baby children. The also a random reveal that Emily has fucking cut marks all over her arms, and she's now trying to kill herself again. And zombie Alice shows up and slits her neck.
Yeah. I think that there is like a way cooler way to kill the main personality in a flashback to make it sort of like, we were talking about earlier how it would have been cool if they just focused on the ward and it was only the ward and nothing else really mattered.
Yeah.
And like there's so many interesting ways to do that, but you have to make it epic, and it can't be this reveal. It has to be like the opening sequence, like imagine the opening sequence was then the entire crux of the movie, and you learn a little bit about each person as you're going through it. Like it can be so much more impactful, and this is just like this boring like they take her into a room and put a pillowcase on her face like and suffocate her. Like it's just like so fucking boring.
Stupid.
Yeah, it's so stupid. But I mean, you could take that same method of death and make it so much more interesting. Like you could make it in a pool or something. Like they drown her in a pool and they all have to hold her underwater together at the same time. Like everybody has to be there and their hands are all touching her. Like they could, even if they did it in the same way where they put something over her face, they have to like hold her, and they all have to be involved. Like it's just like, it just feels lazy as fuck. Lazy.
So
it is. It's exactly what it is.
I remember watching Cult of Chucky, and Cult of Chucky tries to make you think the opposite. You think that what's his face's daughter is insane for the whole thing, and then it turns out it's Chucky doing the thing. This is like, but it's all very smart, so it leads you to like believe these things. And in this, in retrospect, all of it is like the analogy of the place smells like burning bread, and they're throwing loaves at you for the breadcrumbs. Like it's so ham-fisted, and it's so poorly done and poorly telegraphed. And now we're at the point, like we're getting through this movie so fast because nothing happens. We're literally down to Zoe and Kristen left, and she holds a scalpel to Zoe's throat to get through the doors. And that's when I noticed the mistake, where she's like, get against the wall, and they're already against the wall.
Yeah, closer, and they're like really like
like Homer through the hedge.
Yeah,
they're melting into the walls. I mean, I know you're joking, but even that would be interesting if they actually started to melt into the walls, and she's like, what the fuck? And then she realizes like that something's wrong here.
No, that's a good point. Like this, they could have done more with like the surrealism of the situation. And her perception of what's happening could cause these really weird and creepy moments.
That's the shitty thing. Like this could have been a good movie. It could have been easily.
Even in this moment that we're talking about, where it's like get closer to the walls, and then they do like the ding, the door opens and Roy is there, and he's like covered in flaming shit, and he grabs her and then like hits the other one away. And then they inject her and they pull her off to the side, and then we get the conversation of like, you've been trying for far too long. Like it's a very like Star Wars-y kind of conversation where like everything is very proper and like expository between the two of them. Like it feels childish, where I'm like, this is dumb, but like I kind of like it because it is so straight, and I'm like, I'm finally getting some dialogue that is like, okay, well, at least the movie is now explaining to all the people around me who are too dumb to know what's going on, but also then being like, see, you were right the whole time. Like you get a little bit of like gratification, being like, yeah, I knew it. I knew it the whole time. But I thought that when she's going down, for some reason in my memory, I had this memory of her looking over to the other girl in the corner. I can't remember her name, the one who acts like a fucking child the whole time. And like I thought her face started to like fade away or something, like where she was like, what the fuck? And then I watched it and I was like, no, that doesn't happen. I once again made the movie like kind of a little bit better in my head than it actually is.
All of our theories tonight, all of our what could have been better moments are infinitely better because they're more just, we're being creative and we're riffing. The writers of this movie made the most cookie cutter bullshit, or they just like had a script on a shelf that were like kids like asylums in 2010 horror movies, and then they didn't deviate from the main idea. They didn't make it interesting, and then they're like, let's get John Carpenter, he'll make it interesting. And John Carpenter was like, we're filming this and you're going to put my name on it? I want $2 million and I want
And I want it now.
Wow.
And I want every NBA game that exists. And I want to play them all at the same time.
I don't work on
instead.
NBA game days, and I don't work after 7 p.m. because that's when I play NBA games. As he turns on his PlayStation.
I love that. I love the characterization of John Carpenter that we're presenting too, where he's just like not even looking
I'm
at the
pretty sure
camera
he's an
while it's
Xbox
filming
guy.
the
I'm
shot.
just saying.
You said PlayStation.
I know, because that's the one that everybody likes or whatever, but I'm pretty sure he's an
Yeah.
Xbox guy.
I'd believe that. Roy busts in and intervenes, and so does the doctor. And the doctor's still like, "We can cure her," while she's got a fucking scalpel to it, but she doesn't. Wait a second. She's got. So what are they seeing when?
No, they're gonna jab her with the needle, and the doctor is like, "Don't do that. We're almost
We just
there. We're
need
so
more time."
fucking close. You don't even understand how long I've been waiting for this moment." And then nurse cunt. What's her name? Nurse.
Close enough.
No, sorry.
Yeah, I like yours better.
Nurse Clunt is she's like, man, she with her half moon eyes is like, we've been waiting forever. You know, like me and Roy, we have lives, you know. Like sometimes I leave and then get into the pills and she just starts eating like 80 pills. Like she's like, remember when they're like sniffing the pills and stuff? And she's like, yummy. Like I could just imagine her like
Yummy. Yeah, because what's her face? The blonde who looks like Alan Tudyk. It's like, tasty.
Yeah.
Right.
You
so
know
they
what
put
would
her
have been
in
great at that point is if, as they're gonna like jab her with the needle, if the nurse is like, "It's already been 8 years, nothing's happened." But like, you think about it, you're like, "Well, she's only been there for maybe a month. So what's going on here?"
Yeah, it even feels like maybe it could have been just a few weeks.
a couple days even.
No.
Yeah. No, I get that. But now she
I mean, I
becomes a
don't hate this
superhero.
part. I guess what I'm trying to say is that I don't really hate this part because I'm like, the movie is already really dumb up until this point, and this is finally when the movie is like bowing a little bit and being like, all right, we're just gonna give you the stuff now, and you do what you will with it. But then the thing that pisses me off is right after this, the movie still tries to be like, no, but you're not supposed to know that yet. You're not supposed to know any of this yet, so don't look behind these parts.
It also gets dumber because they put her in a straitjacket and she becomes a superhero, Harry Houdini. She gets out of the straitjacket by like ripping it, and then she's just.
Me and Danny kept calling her Harold Herdini, like Amber Heard.
Oh my god,
Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
that's pretty good. I like that.
Yeah, she does like a Captain Kirk, like she hits fucking Nurse Cunt in the back of the head.
What would have been better is if she dislocated her arm to get out of it instead of just like ripping it open.
Or if she was like,
lethal weapons
and had like a key on her tongue and was like, she's crazy. She can manifest anything she wants.
And I wrote, put me in a straitjacket and give me sedatives, right? Sounds like my Saturday night. Okay. So anyway, she sorry.
Yeah.
Wow, that was a big one. She's not gonna Houdini out. They make her take the pills. She pukes those up. Right as she's about to puke, they cut away. But yeah, so she gets out of the thing.
And Jason went, shucks.
Yep. She double axe handles the nurse and knocks her out. No problem.
He does it's a Captain Kirk, like a like it's a crazy. She turns into Captain Kirk for a minute. It's pretty good.
What? But then she gets superhero powers. She's running down the hallway, just like one punch knocking
she's using
out
she's using a flashlight. She's using
that flashlight
Does
shot
she have
to the nose.
Yeah.
Okay. I noticed the flashlight later, but I thought I didn't notice it when she hits the first guy. And I was
the first nurse, she just does she does like a double-handed, like Captain Kirk slammed to the back of the head.
But the first man standing in the doorway, I thought she just
gets the flashlight to the
flashlight.
Okay. But like, I also agree though. Like, she would not like. Have you ever tried to double fist somebody in the back of the head and knock them? Like, I haven't, but like, I can't imagine it would knock them out. Like at all.
What are you doing? Stop that.
Even Nurse Bump or whatever. What's her name?
Nurse Cunt, I believe.
Oh, Nurse Clunt, yeah.
Yeah, so she's just knocking people out with a, with a flashlight. The orderly catches them downstairs. His rage acting, him like freaking out was pretty good, I thought. Ah! He's really mad.
Well, because he's been working there for 8 years and this woman has not been fucking healed. And this psychiatrist, he probably goes home every night to his wife and kids to be like, I made some big breakthroughs today with my patient. And his wife is probably like, is it the same patient you've been working with for 8 years? Yes, it is. When are you going to make a breakthrough? When are you? Yeah, are you in love with her? I mean, I'm in love with a part of her. I assume. Yeah. I mean, yes, at least one, maybe two. She's a fragmented soul. Are you in love with me? No, not at all.
No, I've been indoctrinated by my own
doctorate. He stares at his doctorate on the wall. It's like,
yeah. So we do see the other ward that she runs through. She sees the zombie woman into the basement.
That's when she runs through the zombie ward. She goes through the burn ward and then through the cuckoo bonanza ward, and then she goes through the zombie ward for a second.
We get the dumb waiter.
A really good twist if you find out the doctor is actually trying to splinter her psyche into more personalities.
Even further, yeah, that would be cool too. Yeah.
Oh fuck.
Man, you got a ton of good ideas, man. These are good ideas. Like, what if we splinter her into sand and I make an army of fucking weird personalities?
It falls apart again.
The more personalities we create, the more money I make.
Yeah.
Yes. The more people that I'm helping.
I have a D&D character named Brand right now in one of my games that I play, and that's sort of my whole idea, is that like my character is aware that he has other personalities inside of him, and he like summons them to like take over in positions that he's like, I'm uncomfortable with this, I'm gonna let you deal with that, and like another character will come up.
Oh, that's fun.
It is pretty fun. Yeah, it's not like a mental illness so much as it is like a mental illness that is like he can control exactly when and where he'll be comfortable with certain things,
which is kind of like Split.
It is. Yeah. But he's like there are these things called abyssals, which are like characters that used to be very powerful but then have died, and they've been resurrected by a powerful necromantic god or whatever, and like they decided to bring him back, and he can't deal with it so much, so he keeps creating these personalities to be able to deal with any kind of inconvenience that he's like, I don't want to deal with that. So like one of the things is you have to drink blood. And he's like, I don't like blood. I don't like the taste of blood. So I'm going to create a blood doctor. Hello. I'm a hematologist and a sanguinologist, and I will drink blood for pleasure. I won't get too far into it, but here we are.
So the dumb waiter sequence, they're just race against time to send Zoe up, and then the orderly's trying to get through, and then in the nick of time she makes it in and goes up, just so whatever. And we get a showdown with Zombie Alice, and I wrote, not a lot of time left to reveal a twist, so I'm an idiot. I'm still don't know.
You're like, how many more minutes till the twist? It's past the twist point at this point.
Yeah. I'm just like hoping it's not something dumb. I was expecting any of the things that I said about the doctor, the doctor doing this for some reason, some sort of paranormal reason.
He puts on a wig and he's like, it was me the whole time.
Yeah. If this was actually made in the 1950s, that is the twist.
If it was directed by Vincent Price, he's like,
all right. I would say he takes the mask off and it's Vincent Price.
I didn't know that you didn't know the twist before we started filming the movie.
And
not a great Vincent Price. I'll work on it. It's
pretty good. It's all right.
It's more Richard O'Brien. It's very much Riff Raff from Rocky Horror.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Did you guys see that viral video of
it's
Vincent
astounding.
Vincent Price cooking?
Your mind is fleeting.
Vincent Price cooking, and he's kind of out of character but still in character.
Oh, I think did I send that to you?
We sent it. One of us sent it to somebody. Yeah,
He's like,
I actually have his cookbook
on my souffle. The true horror is not knowing how the souffle will turn out. Oh.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, it's pretty good. And he's like hitting the top of it. Yeah, that was good. Yeah. It did make me be like, he does have like a Muppet voice. Like he has a very impressionable voice that you can do an impression of, but finding it is like kind of hard.
Oh yeah.
It's like weird. It is like a Kermit mixed with and then you like see him and Kermit at the same time, and it is so different because there's like a scene of him like being like, well, Kermit, I've never been invited here to Sesame Street. Kermit's like, well, like bites him. He's like, yeah. Anyway, sorry, I'm going to Sesame Street here. I didn't mean to.
That's all right. Zombie Alice beats the fuck out of Amber Heard, takes an axe to the chest, and I wrote, does this kill her? So it wasn't a ghost, just a fast ghoul.
Oh, so this is when you still believe it's a zombie coming. Like,
yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Haven't seen a movie where the protag just fights a ghoul.
I'm trying to like figure out ways that we could fix the movie for Jason's version where it's just a ghoul. It's like moving through the vents, like sliding across her like gooey belly or whatever.
It does really explain why the zombie can disappear like a ghost.
Because she is a ghost and not real, and none of it's real.
Right. Alice got all the therapies and had many personalities.
Metal Gear Semi-Solid.
Here we go. Doc has answers. Wait, the twist is Amber Heard is Alice? Whoa. That's where I figured it out.
When they told you straight up.
Yeah.
Yep.
When the movie was like, just so you know,
this is what's happening.
It's
and then I figured it out.
Movie.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious she burned down the house. The close-up finally reveals that the kid that's locked up is Sydney Sweeney, who is young Alice. I can't believe that didn't spoil it for me. I already explained why I wrote that. Zombie comes back and they tussle again and they fly out the window. And then Kristen is just Kristen. Kristen is just Alice now. She just is the other actor. And Kristen was just a personality. And Alice is revealed to be the person. Did she make up the others? Did the zombie represent the thing killing the personalities with all the techniques? The parents were the old people all along. Because they're like, who's those people? And it's like, we don't know who those people are. Earlier in the movie,
we've never heard of them.
Yeah, weird ending, kind of bad.
Is that your final thoughts, Jason? Weird ending, kind of bad.
Oh, and she drew all the personalities. Oh, and that's why they were all hot, because she's hot. Random jump scare to end the movie. Lol, dumb.
Yeah, it did remind me of like somebody with a sketchbook in high school or somebody like I'm gonna draw people, and then they only draw hot people and they never ever draw ugly people. It's like I'm not allowed to draw ugly people. But I'll tell you right now, if you start drawing ugly people, you start to find ugly people like more beautiful than hot people, because hot people are very easy to draw, ugly people harder to draw, and you appreciate the distinguishing features a little bit more. That's just a little secret for me.
Draw me like one of
pals. Oh my God, Nurse Clunt.
I have to ask you both.
Yeah.
This jump scare at the end, where is this supposed to take us?
It's the sequel, baby.
So she's being released, but the personality is still there.
I assume she was reaching for
three-story fall.
I assume she was reaching for one of the Infinity Stones on her neck or whatever. Right? Isn't that how that works?
And there's the post credits.
Listen, this came out after Iron Man, so maybe this was the first.
Samuel L. Jackson shows up post credits and is like, "We're putting together a team of
Personalities.
Awards.
Yeah. We're putting together a team of personalities, and I think that you are perfect for that team. Dun 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 dun. Dun, dun, diddle-dun, diddle-dun, diddle-diddle-diddle-dun, diddle-dun,
No, I think
diddle-diddle-diddle-dun,
that jump scare at
diddle-dun.
the end is a kind of an homage, or to the, Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, where they just do a thing at the end. Those are much better. They make.
I mean, I know what I said
but
at
they're
the
much
end.
better.
We were watching it, and because she opens the medicine cabinet, and it's like, "Wah!" And I'm like, if I opened my medicine cabinet and Amber Heard leapt out at me, that would be the scariest fucking thing I've ever seen in my entire fucking life.
Amber Creek.
Yeah, so she'll never get rid of those personalities because it's the 60s, and she's not cured because they didn't use real
Amica cream.
medicine.
Oh,
Or Amica cream.
Amica cream for sure.
Amica cream wants the medicine, and that's why she was never cured. But that's the movie. I guess we came in on record time. This is one of our shorter bodies of the episode. So now we have a couple things that we have to do to end up the episode. First, let's talk about our final thoughts and our Home Alone of it all. Steve?
at the same time?
If you had to pick one,
Well, what do you think the Home
when
Alone of it
is
all?
the Home Alone of it all?
Can someone please tell me when the Home Alone
I
of it
really
all
gotta
When's the
know.
Home Alone of
When
it all?
is the Home Alone of it all?
What is the Home Alone of it all?
Now that's the Home Alone of it all.
And a happy new year. So, Ben, you haven't been here in a minute. We've just sort of amalgamated the Home Alone of it all into the final thoughts segment. Steve, why don't you go first, just to kind of show how it works now?
Well, so in this one, the Home Alone of it all for me is it has to be the moment that I figured out the twist when I was first watching this, when I was like 19 or whatever. And it's the moment where he says, like, I can't help you. You need to figure this shit out on your own or whatever. I'm paraphrasing what he said, but like that is more or less what he said to her. And I was like, wait, oh, all right. This is a movie where they're all going to be this, and she has to solve it because, you know, there's a reason we're only seeing this many things and that and this and whatever. So I after that moment, the entire movie, I was like suspicious, and everything that I watched after that was just confirming those suspicions, and nothing discredited it. You know, there's nothing after that to be like, but maybe it couldn't be that. And it's like, no, that's exactly what it is. And so to me, that's the Home Alone of it all. But it's also like, imagine the Home Alone of it all in a movie just like told you the end of the movie. Like, imagine Kevin McAllister was like, so I'm making this blueprint and I'm going to win, and my mom's going to come home and everything's going to be okay and nothing's going to be like a problem at all. That's how the movie's going to end. And then he turns back to writing it. And I was like, oh, fuck. So that's why it's the Home Alone of it all without the fun stunts, you know, like nothing fun happens. No ghosts get hit in the face by paint cans, but I will say killing a ghost with an axe is very good. Like, that is a very good thing that not a lot of movies have ever done since or before. And I think maybe more movies need to like have people be able to kill a ghost with an axe and have the axe actually be like embedded in the ghost's chest and the ghost going like dying, you know. That's pretty good. That's pretty fucking good. In terms of a movie, it's a movie, and it's exactly the same kind of shit that you've seen a million times and you will see a million times. It's like a pill version of a movie. There's no thought or care or creativity put into it. It's like somebody said, here's a movie, eat it. And then we all went, oh. Yeah. Well, that was certainly a movie. And then that's all it is.
Not good sour.
Which makes me feel bad to say, because I love John Carpenter. And I think that like some of his movies would be considered some of the greatest movies of all time. And this movie would be considered one of the most mediocre things that ever existed of all time. It's going to be buried in a pool of movies like it. And it really sucks that it's his last movie. I would have loved for him to have something to go out on. And, you know, he's not dead yet. Maybe he will, but I really doubt he will. But it kind of sucks that this is his last thing. But at the same time, I know, and I think we all do, that he's not really the kind of person to care about pageantry. Like, he's not going to be like, I'm coming back for one more. Like, I don't think that he's going to be that kind of guy, and that's fine. And the reason it's fine is because he has so many of those movies that will always be appreciated as some of the best movies that have ever been made. So this movie sucks, but John Carpenter doesn't. Not at all. And I would never say that he did. So yeah, those are my final thoughts and my home alone of it all.
How about a rating?
Oh, if I was to give this movie a personality, it would be a boring, lame personality that gets split off into like even less interesting personalities, and then they start fighting each other to become the most interesting personality. But then that just comes up to the original one. The original's like, no, and like it kills that one, and then it's alone for a bit, and then it looks up and it realizes that there's a very interesting personality. It's John Carpenter, and he just steps on it with his fucking toes and squishes it between his toes. That's my rating.
The crowd absolutely lost their mind for that.
That's funny, man. That's a funny joke.
Ben,
Yes.
you know the drill. Your home alone of it all, your final thought, and your rating.
Yeah, sure. My home alone of it all would be, of course, the axe to ghost Alice's chest, because that should kill off that personality, leaving Kristen being the dominant one, and it doesn't make any sense, just like this entire fucking film. So that one scene sums up everything. The movie itself is awful. I wouldn't even say mediocre. It's just bad. It's really fucking bad. Like, worse than Ghost of Mars. So much worse. And it's just really sad, because Carpenter is so much better than this. And I really believe he just didn't care when he made this movie. He just didn't care at all. He said he hadn't done anything in 10 years because nothing really struck him. Nothing jumped out at him. But he liked the idea of doing a movie set in a single location, which this movie isn't. And it's just, I agree with Stephen that John Carpenter is very good. He's my favorite director ever. He's made great movies and fun movies, but I think this is the only movie of his that is truly horrid.
Yeah.
And if I had to give it a review, I'd give it, or a score, I'd give it 1 out of 5 personalities, and that one personality would be the most boring personality you've ever encountered.
It's like
That applause.
personality is just like watching Wheel of Fortune on that like shitty TV, being like, whoa.
The
Wow.
personality's just passed out on the floor.
The applause sign is working overtime tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I wanted my Home Alone of it all to be like the slasher element, but it really just like kind of wasn't. There's like a couple kills that are all right.
It's not even
I
a good
guess.
slasher element. Yeah. For
Yeah,
the creator of slasher movies, he really dropped
really
the ball.
whiffed it. So what my Home Alone of it all is realizing that I cannot fucking realize movies are telegraphed to me, and I really have to reassess how I watch. So maybe John Carpenter in his final movie did something that changed my brain chemistry, and that's the Home Alone of it all. my final thought is, ugh, it was fine, I guess. Changed my mind on that. It worked as a horror, and the twist was decent. Nope. No, it made me feel dumb, and I said, I bet Steve saw it coming, but I didn't. The performances were all pretty bad. Amber Heard is a basic actor, but Jared Harris was at least committed.
Yeah,
he did a good job. And cinematography wise, like it had some of the visual storytelling that John Carpenter is known for, but it wasn't enough to prop up the movie. And clearly he just didn't really care about this because it was all very basic. He didn't do anything mind blowing. You know, The Thing has all kinds of crazy scenes and setups and stuff that just you think about The Thing all the time. And I will never think about this movie again. My rating is 2 out of 5. And I give this movie a bad way to end a career. So even while I was writing out my final thought, I started with, it was fun, I guess, to wow, terrible way to end your career.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I don't even want to say that about John Carpenter, because I feel like even probably while making this movie, he was probably just like, what have I done? What have I
It's
done?
been called John Carpenter's Leave Me Alone.
Where he's like, John Carpenter's put me in the ward.
Thanks, everybody. Okay, so what we'll do is let's do our plugs, since that'll only take a second, and then I have the lists pulled up that we'll just kind of talk about for a minute, since we came in way under time compared to usual. Is the end of the month, and that segment will be a little bit more. He'll kind of take us out of this funk. But Ben, do you have anything you want to promote or plug?
Hold on.
Oh,
Hold on. I need to show you guys what it means to get electrocuted.
All right, let me just plug this in right here and.
Where do you even get a sound effect that is just a person thud?
I know how to make them. Use potatoes and boots.
Foley artist now. Just put into your resume. Sorry, I didn't mean to stomp all over the plug sting. But Ben, do you have anything you'd like to plug?
Well, we've been taking a pretty long hiatus on the BS Bargain Bin podcast. I hope we'll get some episodes up soon, but with production starting up again in the next little bit, I think we might have to go on another break. But please go back and check out the library of the BS Bargain Bin, because there's a lot of fun movies that we've covered there, some absolutely horrible ones, and some that like I go back and just check out randomly and will laugh my ass off too. So they're all up on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, everywhere. And just shoot us a message. Let us know what you think. If you find one funny, or if you have any suggestions or recommendations, just let us know.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming back on. You're welcome back anytime, of course.
Thank you.
More clapping. We have a really good audience here, I think. Maybe just eat it up. How about you, Steve? What do you got cooking, buddy?
Well, Star Wars is doing well. Game of Thrones is doing well. I do the channel's Darth Theorist, which has just reached 26,000 subscribers and over 4 million views total. Oh my goodness.
Holy
it's
shit.
Doing so well. And then the Game of Thrones channel, which has just reached over 1 million views and 11,000 subscribers, I believe. Also doing well. I do all the voices. I do all the narration. I do some writing now too. If you want to see some of my own creative madness, it's going to happen soon. But I also have started doing a page called the Grimopedia on YouTube. And we had our first video go viral on that one, which is overnight up to 40K views, which is pretty good. So if you want to check that out, it's me talking about, we were talking about like the earlier, like the tortures and all the therapy that doesn't exist anymore. That's the channel. It's sort of kind of funny, I guess. It's me being like, well, you'll never believe what happened in the 17th century, like that kind of stuff. But, you know, sometimes they give me lines and I'm like, I'm not reading that. That is a child molestation joke. Are you insane? You want me to get canceled? No, I'm just kidding. I also am just kind of like, it's gross. I don't want to say it. And yeah, but yeah, that's kind of the newest one. But there's a few others that if you follow me, you'll be able to find them. You'll find them all.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah, check those out. For me, you can find this show each and every week right here live on Twitch and YouTube at 8 p.m. Eastern. We've had a little bit of an uptick as well. It's certainly not 26,000 subs, but I'd like to thank all the new people that have come in. I did a 5-day 24/7 stream, which got us out to a lot more people than normal. That was a pretty good, enlightening little experiment. I'll probably do that more often, just to kind of, keep us alive. I'd also like to let everybody know that on Friday, the day after this goes live, I put up the on-demand versions on YouTube. I make an audio version that can all be found in the same places. Pretty much anywhere you get your podcasts or your videos, they go up there. I'm also the announcer for the local independent wrestling promotion called Super Kicked. We have a show coming up next Friday, a week from tomorrow, the 31st. At the Great Hall here in Toronto, which I'm really excited for, the first show of the new year. Expect a big title match in the main event. Tarek goes up against the Super Kick champion, Jesse V. Should be a banger. And that's pretty much it. I also want to let everybody know that we do have a merch store on Redbubble and TeePublic, where you can find the following shirts. You can find the Grimoire of Familiar Killers shirt, which you can get.
Oh my God, that's my favorite fucking shirt.
Steven drew that. Oh, speaking of, there's Kill Aid, one of our fine characters we came up with last October. Also, Twinkerbell. I saw somebody favorite Twinkerbell as soon as I finally got it online. Somebody favorited it, so maybe somebody will purchase it. Also, if you enjoy the Zardoz segment, you can get that on a shirt. And our newest shirt just went up live this week. The Howie Mandela effect. Look at that. Look at that nightmare, man. You can get that on a shirt if you want to.
Why is he drooling so much? Oh, that's future. That's future juice coming out of his mouth.
He's freaking out about how much he can see and how much has changed. And also, for no reason at all, here's a picture of Rob Van Winkle dressed as you can't get that on a shirt. I just wanted to show it because it's funny.
Yeah,
perfect.
And yeah, there he is.
Oh, doodle ding ding, doodle ding ding.
And we have lots of stuff, lots of ideas and stuff coming down the pipe. So look forward to some new content this year. And just before we get out of here, I'm gonna pull this up. And I can't really see it.
I thought we were just gonna look at it. I ain't gonna pull the whole list up. Like,
well,
you know.
Oh God.
That's sort of how I ordered my movies. That's sort of how Steve ordered his.
Well, you don't want to talk about it?
You both failed horribly.
The Thing is the best.
Halloween.
Wow. Hold on. Our first three choices are the exact same. That's pretty cool.
I didn't even do that on purpose.
All right. Do we want to talk about this for let's try and keep it to 10 minutes maybe.
Okay. Yeah. So
let's go from the bottom. From the bottom.
Well, I haven't seen Village of the Damned yet.
Well,
we're going to cover
why
that.
Mine's not on the list. See how mine's floating down at the bottom there? It's not on the list yet.
Yeah. Apparently, Village of the Damned for Steven is worse than nothing.
It's worse than nothing. Well, we haven't watched it, so I gotta watch it to
That's fine. It's a movie. It's better than The Ward.
Well, I mean, Jason put The Ward higher than Invisible Man, which I liked. Shocked by, to be honest.
I liked The Ward better. I hated Memoirs of an Invisible Man. It was much more fun to talk about. But
that was the Chevy Chase and Daryl Hannah.
Yeah.
I dislike this movie more than that. I thought that the movie was more interesting. It had more to say and do, and I think that there was some good special effects that kind of like like it kind of blew. I mean, Jason watched this on like a fucking like a iPhone from the like 2009.
I couldn't find it, so I watched it on archive.org.
And I
recorded from television.
I think I bought it for like $4 or whatever. And it looked good. Looked good. And it felt like visually it felt like a John Carpenter. So I bumped it up.
It was my knee jerk when we talking about the Ward. I might switch those now. Definitely both at the bottom. And then Escape from LA, we kind of have that in the same place because
Ben, you were on first. Don't. Mine's Ghost of Mars. So you like Escape from LA better than Ghost of Mars?
No, I like Ghost of Mars better than Escape from LA.
Sorry, that's what I meant to say. I said it backwards.
But you like Escape from LA more than Ghost of Mars.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's
Ben, how do you feel about that?
Escape from LA is definitely better than Ghost of Mars. 100% better.
I agree as well, and I think that the reason that this exists in my brain like this is because I as we talked about, I think a year ago or maybe 2 years ago, I can't remember when we did it. Ghost of Mars lives in my mind as an unofficial sequel to those movies, and
it's Escape from Mars.
Yeah, it's a much poorer version of it, and how much better it could have been had Kurt Russell and Snake Plissken been in it. It just like it leaves so much open to like what if, whereas Escape from LA, it does its job and it knows what it's doing, and it's like we're gonna have him play basketball to stop a bomb going off or whatever. I'm like, I like that better.
I liked the one character who was like an evil plastic surgeon. I liked that character.
You mean Bruce Campbell?
Campbell?
Yeah. I liked that. I kind of liked Ghost of Mars for how ridiculous it was. Also, you had vampires way higher than I did, and that movie was kind of like whatever to me.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed vampires.
So did I. That's why it's high on my list at 11.
You like the book too.
So where you have vampires, I have LA, but I also have The Fog where you have Ghost of Mars. And I feel like Ben probably has something to say about that because I think you love The Fog, don't you?
The Fog is an amazing film. Yeah. It'd be much higher up on my list.
I mean, you were on our Fog episode, and I remember being in that episode being like, I don't really know.
Ben was on a lot of these episodes.
Yeah, that's why he's here for this conversation. We have Assault on Precinct 13 at the exact same thing. That's pretty cool. We both are like, and it's at 13. Oh wait, it's actually not 13. It's 12.
It's
12.
That would have been cool if it was.
It's a solid movie, but like it has a lot of flaws that I don't think any of us can deny.
I remember that one being kind of like boring for how exciting I thought it should be. Was kind of my memory of it.
It just seems a little jarring at times. Like one of the guys just like shooting the kid with ice cream.
Yeah. And she's like,
oh, I forgot about that.
I mean, Assault on Precinct 13 is a lesser version of Prince of Darkness, in my opinion, which we'll get to when we get there, I guess. But I
see where you're going. Yeah.
I have Dark Star under. Oh, wow. This is interesting. So I have Vampires next, and yours is way down there, but you have Starman there.
Yeah. I think I did this kind of like you put more thought into it. I kind of just filled it out like in a couple minutes. Yeah. I think I might change this around if I had more time to do it, but I still think this is an accurate representation of the order I put the movies in.
So Vampires, I think is like a middle of the road, but it also has like a lot of fun in it. It's not great, but it's also, pretty fucking great at times. Like there's so many things that vampire movies didn't really consider that this movie addressed in like fun ways. And it also is very much a John Carpenter movie to its core. Like it feels like a Carpenter when you're watching it.
I watched a
Carpenter
segment
Western.
of us. Yeah, I watched a segment of us talking about this recently because I've been going back through a lot of episodes, and we kind of were like, James Woods isn't that guy, and if somebody else was playing the James Woods character, it might have elevated the movie a bit.
Like 20 other actors could have been more interesting.
We talked about Dennis Leary being that guy,
Yeah,
being that character.
I mean, we probably talked about it a bunch, but even you just saying it again, I'm like, yeah, way better.
Yeah,
way better. Liam Neeson, Gary Oldman.
Yeah, Gary Oldman would have been great. Yeah.
I'm kind of disappointed your Starman is so low, but like, you know, I just love Starman. I love Starman. I think it's such a good movie, but I also have Halloween at 10, which I'm assuming Ben will hate me for. He's like, Ben, it's the best movie ever made.
I notoriously don't like Halloween that much, and I put it up pretty high. So
you have it higher than what I have it.
Yeah.
Which is I like Halloween, but I like all these other movies more than I like Halloween. You have Dark Star here. I had Dark Star lower, but I think last week we both discovered that Dark Star is like kind of great.
Yeah, it's a really fun, weird movie that we kind of boiled it down to it's an amazing student film that should have just stayed that. They should have never tried to push it over to the next realm. But it's you know, we talked a lot about remaking it and what the parameters of a remake would be, and it's a shell. There's a good movie in there, a great movie in there.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if you can get away with remaking that though. Not
Starman,
today.
Yeah, it wouldn't be good. It wouldn't be as good because they wouldn't do the boring shit in the movie that makes the movie good. Because like there's so much boring stuff in that movie that actually makes it better than it would be if they were like, well, instead of them just like having sex they're on a train, right? Like aren't they just like on a train like going through the countryside towards where they need to go, and then he's like, I gave you a baby or whatever. I'm pretty sure that's how it goes. I also like, so if you were to look at our lists here, if I was to have put Starman down 1, then me and Jason would have had Escape from New York and Prince of Darkness at the exact same level. Makes me think that me and Jason are on a more synced up level than I thought, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And like when it comes to Starman and Escape from New York, I like New York a lot more, but I can easily see why you would put Starman above it. Like it is a solid film. It really is.
It's a great movie. Yeah.
If you look at our top 6, it's all the same 6 movies for the both of us, just in different orders.
Different order.
Yeah, I love
that's
Christine.
Nice, Jason. That makes me feel so nice. It makes me feel very nice that the top 6 of these movies, we all have the same 6 movies, even though they're not in the same order. We still appreciate them as the top 6 of our.
Well, we went through this journey, and we really broke all these movies down because the John Carpenter thing starts around when we start just talking about movies till we're done talking about them. So we covered these movies. You know, I changed a lot of the way that I even watch films because of the John Carpenter month. I would never have watched a great deal of these films if it wasn't for this podcast. So I'm glad that.
Absolutely adore that both of you have In the Mouth of Madness in the top 5.
It's so good.
Yeah,
it's so weird and good.
Do you also have it in your top 5?
Oh yeah, it would probably be my 4th.
Nice. Yeah. That's my 4th.
Yeah, it probably for me. I think the top 5 would be Halloween, The Thing, They Live, Big Trouble, In the Mouth of Madness.
Yeah, that's solid.
Yeah.
You're a Halloween man, but we can all agree that that's a good.
It's not for everyone.
It's not for everyone, but like I never thought that Jason would put Christine in his top 6. That's pretty cool. And he put it higher than mine, but I put them In the Mouth of Madness higher than Christine because I love Sam Neill and I love that movie. Like it's so
good.
it's so up your ass about how the world is fucked, and then it's almost like the world is normal, and then he leaves, and then he comes back, and the world is fucked. He's like, "What happened? What the fuck happened while I was gone?"
But it's also like,
so
let's take
good.
Stephen King and Lovecraft and just mesh them together and make them this malevolent entity.
They also like
and fuck with Dr.
they also,
Alan
like,
Grant.
Yeah, and they also like yell at Stephen King in this movie, being like, "Stephen King is nothing considering." What is his name? Sutter Kane. Sutter Kane came
Sutter
to town.
Kane
Do
is
you
the
read
ultimate-
Sutter Kane?
Yeah. Do you read Sutter Kane? Yeah. Love it.
It's also weird
keep
to see
thinking
that the institution is just the water treatment plant in Toronto.
Yeah.
I was, while we were watching The Ward, I was like, man, because I kept thinking about In the Mouth of Madness, because, you know, a better movie about madness. And
I'm sorry about the balls.
But like, imagine he decided to film it there, and the whole movie is filmed there, and then he also like implies maybe that it's the same place that took place in, and like does a Stephen King thing, you know, like that would.
I was trying so hard to make this because when you see John Carpenter's The Ward, you're like, oh, what's this a sequel to? And then it's just nothing.
Yeah,
I really wanted this to be the same asylum as some, you know, in-universe place from one of the other movies, but
yeah, you wanted it to be like, you wanted Sam Neill to be the doctor, being like, I used to go through exactly what you go through. An invisible man attacked me, and I lost my mind. But
that would have been
you're now stuck in the women's ward, next to the burn ward, and next to everybody always said that John Carpenter could never make a movie about women, because he never really does. Like, his movies aren't really about women ever.
No.
This is like the one movie that has like an all-female cast, and it sucks ass. And it's not because they're women, it's because the movie sucks. It's just shit.
No.
Well, he's so used to having like all man casts, like The Thing and Dark Star, which are great, and then he tries to do
maybe
this.
He's a problematic male. Maybe he just, the reason he wasn't into the content is like, not
I
enough men. Can I get what? Imagine, oh my god, imagine one of the personalities was just Keith David. Like, well, like they're all in the ward together, but one of them is just Keith David. He's like into knitting or something. He's like, you better stop talking to me while I'm crocheting. He's like,
why is there a man in this woman's ward?
It's not a woman's ward. It's a ward for the mentally ill, like you, like me, like the president of the United States, me. And he stands up and starts giving like an address to the government or whatever.
Again, all better concepts from the fucking word.
But also, he's one of his main men. He could have been in the movie as the other personality. I mean, if you're gonna have Keith David as one of the personalities of this white woman, then you have to have another man as well.
We need a John Carpenter musical.
Mm-hmm.
That combines everything.
No, it's just
a song about every movie.
Land.
Yeah.
What would it be called?
I just said Escape from La La Land.
And it's just a movie about him trying to escape Hollywood. Yeah,
I think he did that a long time ago.
Yeah, that's why he made The Ward, because he needed to get the new NBA 2K game.
Yeah.
Like, that cost $60. He's like,
leave me alone.
You don't know how hard I play these games. I need $1 million. Well, I think
microtransactions.
Yeah. I think that's
I was trying to think of a good name and I couldn't do it. I was like going through all the like different titles in my head. I'm like, Assault on Prehistoric 13. It's like, you know, I was like going through all the ideas of like, what can you make the old man being like, I just need to make one more to keep my freaking health benefits or whatever.
Escape from the Dark Starman on Halloween.
On Precinct 13. on Precinct Halloween.
Escape from Newark.
Yeah, nobody wants to land in Newark. Ding ding. I mean, what should really happen is that Hideo what's his name? Kojima?
Hideo Kojima?
Yeah, he should make an actual sequel to the Escape movies that just reveals that the Metal Gear Solid games are actually sequels to that, and Kurt Russell should be in it as Snake, plus like the Snake Plissken from the movies, and he like meets up with Snake Plissken from the games, and he's like, "Well, I see you've done exactly what I told you to do," and he like gives him like one last thing. He's like, "Before I die, take this," and like falls over dead, and then like it, and then it goes into like, we realize that the entire Metal Gear Solid universe is part of the John Carpenter universe, part of the Big Trouble Little China, part of Vampires, part of Prince of Darkness. Like all of that shit exists in the
Prince of Dartmouth.
Prince of Dartmouth.
Sorry, for my Halifax friend. Sorry, Steve.
You know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
And then at the end of the game, the boss is revealed to be the Invisible Man. He's like, his teeth appear, and it's what's his name from SNL? That asshole.
Chevy Chase.
But it's Chevy Chase. It's not the character from the movie. It's
actually Chevy Chase.
Chevy Chase as an Invisible Man, yeah. And he's like, "I'll find you." And he's like, in like the old days where like the like Psycho Mantis could like read your memory card and be like,
I knew that time that you played Star Fox 64 wasn't as perverted as you wanted us to believe.
But he's like telling you about like,
well, I can see here that you went to Pornhub 14 times during work hours yesterday. Why would you do that, pervert?
So that's John Carpenter month. There's of course one last thing that we have to do on the show, and that's ask a particular question. Ben, could you ask that question for us now, please?
No.
Well, I can't do it either, Jason. I just shit inside my pants.
Hey,
make him away, toys.
Yeah, great job, guys. We did a great job on it. Thanks for watching, everybody, and
well done.
Oh, are you about to throw your heart out to all of us? That sounds like the impression.
Oh, Jesus Christ! What a reference. I do throw. Oh, God, say something funny.
Beam up some Star Trek content with Live Long and Podcast. Tune in to X-Rated, the X-Men animated review show. Artistic interviews with graphic histories. A roundtable movie discussion with Hey, Did You See This One? And movie reviews with Hold Up, a movie podcast. And while you're at it, spin a few records with Eamon on Track. Watch us duke it out on trivial debates. And let's chat about TV with the Super Mater Brothers. It's all here on the United Federation of Podcasts.